All right. Well, we are back, huh? We're back at the nightclub. Stop and chat. Today we have a very special. One more time, Dub. Special returning guest, Mr. Andrew Huberman is back with us. How are you?
Great to be here. It's been a while. I have to say, I've been looking forward to this the whole vacation. So.
Man, we've been looking forward to ever since you've been on the show. I think one of the biggest takeaways of you being on our show was a lot of people didn't know that you skated. That was huge. Like, this guy grew up in San Francisco, skating EMB and all this stuff, and that was like phenomenal.
Huge.
And then another biggest takeaway was just your sleep patterns and the sunlight thing. I think a lot of people.
You look alert.
I've had 2 coffees this morning. Right. But I mean, even I don't necessarily go outside in the morning, but I open up all my windows. I get the air going in there. I get the sunlight coming in. And then usually I'll wait a little bit till, I drink my coffee and stuff like that. So I think we got a lot of people hitting us up about that kind of formula that you were describing, which is great.
Yeah, well, I'm gratified to hear it. Yeah, those little things, especially getting sunlight in your eyes early in the day. I always say like 5 to 10 minutes minimum without sunglasses, and you do not stare at the sun. You just kind of face in the general direction of the sun.
Sure.
It's fine to blink. Glasses and contacts are fine. And on an overcast day or a really cloudy day, you want to do that more, not less. That's where a lot of people get confused. More, not less. So maybe 10 to 20 minutes or 20 or 30 minutes. And skateboarders are probably getting out a bunch during the day. Whether or not they're getting up early or not is a different story.
Right.
And then in the evening, 10 p.m. onward, try and just dim the lights down. It's not a problem to watch a movie or be on your computer or phone, but just dim it way down and just really try and not get blasted with bright lights, because that disrupts a bunch of things, melatonin and your sleep signals. It really is not good. The thing I've been doing lately that I learned from my friend Rick Rubin, who is really into light. We love talking about light, sunlight, and all this. Is you can buy. You don't have to even buy one of the fancy red lights. Those have their use, but they're pretty expensive, relatively speaking. You can just order online or go and get the red party bulbs, and you put those next to your bed. And so if you have red light on in the evening, you can still read, you can move about, and it is so relaxing. Your transition into sleep will be so much easier. Your sleep is so much deeper. If you wake up in the middle of the night, you switch it on, you don't get this increase in these stress hormones from the red light that you do from other things. So during the day, you want sunlight as much as you can. Bright light, all these bright lights that we're getting beamed with right now. Great, because it's early day. And then in the evening, just dim it down, red lights, and you'll feel so much better.
Well, I was going to ask you too, because a lot of people have these the color LEDs that they put on it. They do a little pink room or whatever. Is that?
Yeah,
decent?
you can start playing with different wavelengths of light. I think during the day, you really want sunlight. That's the goal.
But
even
night,
through
though.
cloud cover, and try to not do it through a window or a windshield. And if you've been working indoors for a while, you're on the computer, you're editing or doing whatever, get outside every few minutes, every few hours, and get a little blast of sunlight. I mean, it sets in motion so many things through the neurons in your eye that they connect directly to this area of your brain called the hypothalamus, that in turn releases all these chemicals and hormones that create alertness, immune system function during the day, and they set this timer on sleep so that it makes it much easier to fall asleep at night. People, actually, there's a recent paper that was really cool that was out of Seattle, University of Washington in Seattle, showing that people actually stay up much later in the winter months, which makes no sense. The sun's going down earlier in the winter months, right? Why? Because they're on artificial lighting late into the evening, and then they're getting up later and they're not getting enough sunlight, especially up in Seattle. So even if you live in Seattle, you want to make an effort to get outside as much as possible, especially on overcast days. If it's hailing or it's a blizzard, all right, maybe you stand under an overhang or you skip a day. And if you skip a day, no big deal. But this is fundamentally the most important thing for mental health and physical health: wound healing, recovery from injuries, testosterone, libido, metabolism. I mean, it's just, I would place it right up there in the top 5 of, get regular sleep of sufficient duration, get sunlight in the morning, and try and avoid bright light from artificial lights in the middle of the night. Every once in a while is fine. Get regular movement, exercise. For some people that's skateboarding, other people it's like running, weightlifting, whatever. Get it. Proper nutrition, which is really simple, whether or not you're vegan, vegetarian, omnivore, carnivore, whatever. The key is try and make about 3/4 or more of your food intake from non-processed foods. Those would be foods like that would essentially spoil if you left them out. That could be meat and fish if that's in your diet, but if not, it could be fruits, vegetables, or for me, like all those things. And then minimally processed foods like rice, oatmeal, pasta, those kinds of things. And try and limit the highly processed foods, which are the things that basically could like survive on the shelf forever. Try and make those 25% or less of your food intake.
Right.
I think regardless of what foods people are eating, everyone agrees you're going to be a much healthier human being that way.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
And you're going to require far less supplements to get your vitamins and minerals and all that stuff. It just kind of makes sense. And it's the one thing that everyone in the realm of nutrition seems to agree on. And then the last one is quality social connection. That people who are really isolated, they don't do well. Even if you're a loner, like you have to connect with people at some point.
Right.
And so, and if you're in toxic relationships, just end them before the 31st of this year, and then just, and they can blame me. Just say, listen, I was told I had to end this relationship before the 31st of 2022.
Right.
Just kidding. It's harder than that. Sometimes there's things involved, but do it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, toxicity in your life. I mean, all that stuff. It's plays a huge part in the mental health.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think. And I'm guilty of being, I always say I have, 3,000 pet peeves and 3,500 challenges a week. It's like anybody, right? But the idea is that a lot of the things that plague us are under our control.
Right.
And then, of course, there's the more extreme stuff like addiction and bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. And like those things exist. And people who are challenged with those certainly need to get the right help. But if you think about the things I just said: regular sleep of sufficient quality and duration, sunlight, exercise, quality nutrition, social connection. Every single mental health issue, every single physical health issue, from cancer to bipolar to schizophrenia to mild depression, gets worse if you're not doing those 5 things and gets better if you're doing those 5 things. The challenge is people sometimes are so back on their heels that they can't seem to exercise. They can't seem to get their act together to engage in quality nutrition, or every relationship they try, friendship or otherwise, just seems to kind of go bad. So there is a case sometimes for intervening in the mental health issue first. But the more we learn, the more we discover that those kind of core 5 pillars, none of which, by the way, require that you purchase anything. I mean, you have to buy food.
Sure.
Admittedly, right?
Sure.
But everyone has to eat sooner or later.
Right. But sunlight is free.
Yeah, but we're not talking about a program. We're not talking about a kit or a supplement. Those things have their use, just like cold showers and ice baths and saunas have their use and all that. But what we're really talking about is everyone making sure that they're taking care of the foundational elements of their health. And everything gets much worse if you're not doing those things consistently. And everything gets much better if you are. And the final point is, like, no one can do those 5 things for us. That's like, there's no way you can look outside yourself to solve those 5 things. So anyway, I mean, I'm sort of coming in, quick out the gate here.
Coming in hot.
But if your internet connection gets plugged, or if you get tired of my voice or whatever now, like hopefully there's some value in that early little barrage. Right?
No,
I'm trying to hit it like a Jimmy Wilkins run, like 50 tricks straight out the gate, then just sit down and relax.
No, I think it's important because I think we all just need to be reminded sometimes of all that stuff, because like I think it is easy to fall into a trap, whether it be not sleeping well or, whatever the case may be. We could fall into this
routine,
and to break that routine is tough.
Well,
sometimes.
I actually have a list because I'm big on lists. So I mean, I've never revealed this, but my list is pretty corny if you look at it, but it's very basic. It's like, I have on that list, get 1 hour of exercise. So for me, that's, it should be skateboarding, but it's, either running or weightlifting every day. And then 1 day a week, I give myself a day off. But on that day, I'm going sauna, cold, sauna, cold, sauna, cold for 3 rounds. And it's brutal. And it feels amazing.
What does that do? Like, I've never understood that stuff.
Yeah, so let's call it deliberate heat exposure and deliberate cold exposure, so that people who don't have a sauna and don't have an ice bath can still think about how to do this regardless. So when you put yourself into uncomfortably hot but still safe temperatures, a bunch of things happen. Your blood vessels, your arteries, and your capillaries all dilate. Your heart beats faster. It's a lot like exercise.
This is heat.
So we're talking about deliberate heat. Sauna would be the best way to do that. Infrared saunas generally don't get hot enough. So when we're talking about sauna, we're talking about dry or wet sauna. So sometimes they have steam, sometimes they don't.
What's a safe heat? What's a safe temperature for heat?
If you're a fit person, and you have the opportunity to get out if it really becomes excruciating, you don't have any, and you're not pregnant or you have any major health issues related to like blood pressure, you can do well to be in temperatures anywhere from 180 to 220.
Wow.
Fahrenheit.
It's as hot as my coffee.
Yeah, or you can come up to my sauna up the road with a cold bath next to it, and that one goes up to like 250, 260.
Okay.
If you want them to go hotter, you put the thermometer down. It has a trip thermometer. Put it down low because the heat rises, right?
Okay.
So
20 minutes in there, your heart rate goes up. You start releasing a molecule called dynorphin, which is the opposite of endorphin. It actually makes you feel miserable and agitated, and you want to get out. But when you get out, what happens for many hours and maybe even many days is that your ability to experience pleasure is elevated because it upregulates dopamine receptors and all the things that make the pleasure molecules more effective. So it's not, you don't want it to be so uncomfortably hot that you're miserable and dying in there or burning. You just, there's this moment where you're like, I really want to get out. And that's when you try and calm yourself, spend about 5 more minutes in there. Sweating is good for you too. And sweating is a skill, believe it or not. The more you sweat, the better you get at sweating.
I'm really good at that.
Some
I'm the
people are
best
really
here.
good at it. Well, you guys are super active, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know the average age in here, but somewhere probably between 35 and 45, right? So everyone here is really fit. This is the time of year where I run into people I haven't seen in a while. And a lot of times you're just like, wow. You know, every decade that passes, I don't care if you're in your teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, every decade you're going to watch about a third of your friends die off or get into chronic illness.
Damn.
Except the ones that do the 5 things I described consistently. Now, if bad luck happens, right? You have genetic things related to Alzheimer's, cancer, et cetera. And again, doing those 5 things will reduce the probability of that stuff killing you, or will reduce the probability that, you know, you can deal with it more effectively.
If you don't have access to a cold plunge or a heat sauna, is it like a cold shower, hot shower?
Yeah, the benefits of heat go beyond that. So for instance, if you get into the sauna once a week, and it's really hot and it feels like, whoa, I'm not used to this. We say you're not heat adapted. You are going to get enormous increases in growth hormone, up to 15-fold increases in growth hormone. We can talk more about growth hormone. Growth hormone isn't about like big muscles as much as it is about tissue repair, which includes brain tissue repair. It also includes cardiovascular fitness. It includes repair of small connective tissue, chronic injuries, this kind of thing. Heat after you work out is the best time. After you skate, in the evening, right? Or in the afternoon. That's the best time. It's probably good anytime, but that's the ideal time. And then the other thing is that you get a bunch of increases in other hormones that have a long-lasting effect on just overall well-being. So a bunch of ways to access heat exposure. Let's just go with like the lowest budget first. If you have absolutely no access to sauna or to hot tub or hot bath or hot water, you can do like the wrestlers do, and you can wrap yourself in garbage bag plastics, throw on 2 hoodies, and go for a jog. Heat is heat. Okay?
Was that Chris?
Heat is heat. I'm not saying that's my preferred way to do it. The next would be hot bath. You could do hot bath.
That's what I was going to
Don't
ask.
do 220 hot baths. It's different when you're in air.
Get my tea, my kettle, keep pouring water.
Don't burn yourself.
Okay.
So uncomfortable but safe temperature.
Gotcha.
I would say now there's one exception to that, which is if you're a male who wants to conceive, keep in mind if you get in the hot bath for 20 minutes, you're going to kill half your viable sperm. Now, it's also not a good form of contraception. Don't rely on that to avoid getting someone pregnant.
Asterisk.
Yeah, just be clear. The next
cool, I
thing
took a
to
hot
do
bath.
would be sauna. And nowadays you can buy barrel saunas. I don't have any brand affiliation, but barrel saunas and other saunas, the range of cost is somewhere between like, you can probably find them somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000. So they're not cheap.
Jeez.
But
this is just a barrel.
yeah, well,
there.
you want it so you don't burn up in there. It doesn't set on fire, and there's some other things. It's probably a good investment if you're really interested in your health. And you know, and again, I don't know whether or not they have payment plans and things because I don't advertise any of those. But a barrel sauna, once you have one, is a great thing because you can use it anytime you want. You can go to a sauna, but most of them aren't hot enough. If you live in a city like New York, There is a place, they don't pay me to say this, but Spy 88 down on Wall Street has an Archimedes, has a banya, which are the Russian banyas. Those go really hot, and they have cold plunges.
Is this the one that they're
Those barrel
55?
saunas? Yeah, Dundalk makes really good barrel saunas.
So that's $3,500.
There you go.
That's not
So
bad.
the prices have probably come down. There you
I
go.
mean, but it's
So-
a lot of people, majority of the people, they can't put that in their apartment. They can't, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
is
Right.
there,
So a hot bath would be your next best thing, or a hot tub.
what about shower? Like a cold shower?
Okay,
Is
well,
that
with
even-
cold, you have more options.
Yeah.
With heat, just to kind of round that out, you, if you're in San Francisco, Archimedes Banya is great, but just note two things. It's in Hunters Point, so it's in the hard blocks of HP. And so, just eyes up,
Be aware.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to go to high speed out there, right? Or Thrasher, and then all that's there. And yeah, I mean, you have to, I mean, it's good people live out there, but there's some hard blocks.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
I mean, you're going to get robbed. No, I'm kidding. You might. But,
Don't leave nothing in your
and
car.
it's clothing optional at
stole my
Archimedes
towel.
Banya. One of the few ones where like people are walking around naked. Some people in their clothing, some people are not. So just be aware before you get there. Cold is different.
Yeah.
So cold, the advantage of cold is that it's done safely, meaning not so cold that you're giving yourself frostbite. But you have a much bigger range with cold. Options for cold are cold shower.
Yep.
Save on your heating bill, right? You could do an ice bath. You could literally go buy some ice, put it in some cold water in your bath, get in. That starts getting expensive though.
Sure.
After a little while. Nowadays there are these circulating cold tubs. There are a couple of different ways to do that financially. There's a YouTube video that I saw of a guy who's like how to build your own cold plunge for about $1,500. And he, if you're handy and do a little carpentry, teaches you how to build one of those using like a feed trough. And
I think I saw the same one.
so that's cool. I'm glad someone did that. Then the plunge, the cold plunge, those guys make one. I think the range on those is somewhere between, I don't know, 3,500, and they have an XL one, which is maybe about 7. Then it starts going up. It's like Morozco Forge. Again, I don't have any affiliation to any of these on purpose because I'd like one from each one of these companies. Then I'll decide what's
Rotate
sort of.
that.
Morozco's great. Those are getting up towards 10, 12. And then you have like the Blue Cube, which are like the Lamborghini of these.
okay.
And so cold plunge is great because the water circulates often in these. And when it circulates, it breaks up the thermal layer. You get in cold water and you go like this, stay real still. You're warmer. If you want to make it harder, you move around and it breaks up that thermal layer. And okay, so why do this?
Yeah.
Why do it? Well, first of all, you need to do it for about 1 to 3 minutes per session and maybe anywhere from 3 to 5 times per week. But you're going to benefit even once. What happens is you get a surge of adrenaline. And then there's a study that was published in Humans, European Journal of Physiology, showing that you get an enormous increase in dopamine, which makes you feel great. But unlike a drug like cocaine or amphetamine or something, or like an energy drink where it's like a little bit of dopamine, but the effect on dopamine from the cold is very long lasting, 2 to 4, maybe even more hours.
Okay.
Yeah. I was sort of joking about energy drinks. Energy drinks will give you a surge in dopamine. If it has the right things in them, and again, I'm not advertising this. I don't get paid. I buy this.
You're going to get a lot of
If it
sponsors
has
after
low,
that.
I like these because if it doesn't have too much caffeine and you sip your coffee slowly or whatever, or you take your nicotine slowly, I'm not suggesting people, nicotine can help you in certain cases, but it's the delivery device that usually kills you. But the increase in dopamine is really long lasting and it makes you alert. You feel good for hours and hours. So this morning I got into the cold plunge for 1 minute. Just got in there. I did not want to get in. But then you get out and you feel great most of the day.
Like you survived.
It's wild. It's really wild. The adrenaline, when you deliberately give yourself that adrenaline shot, it's really powerful. And I would say that you can't get that from things that you like. Like if you're like, oh, I can't wait to go skate this rail. Like, like maybe you like adrenaline, but it's the discomfort of I don't want to do this. You get in and then you get that wake up shot, like jumping in the ocean or cold water. The moment you start liking cold water means you're starting to get addicted to that in a healthy way. Maybe the railing is more an example of like a healthy addiction.
Sure.
If you make it.
Could you just get in the shower and make it hot and then make it cold?
Okay.
Well, that was going to be my next question
Okay,
because like
so-
if we break this down into like, skateboarders, live in an apartment,
Yeah.
like
I don't
if
know.
am I
more and more
going
I hear from skateboarders are like into the cold plunge and the.
I'm just
it's
saying like I don't have that, right? And in my place, like I think a good option for me to start with would be cold shower, hot shower.
Perfect.
So if I get in the cold shower, how
get
many?
up in the morning.
Right away?
So Rogan
Let's
these
get
days,
the
I've been
core
going back and
temperature.
forth with Joe Rogan forces himself to get into the cold every morning for 3 minutes right off the bat.
Right when he wakes up.
That's what he does. But he's Joe, right? And for all
Chris.
his commitments, for all his commitments and resources, he
Joe.
pushes himself really hard, and
For sure.
it makes you feel 10 times more motivated to do anything else. Because that's that, they call them the catecholamines. It's dopamine, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. They're released in the body as a kind of a package of things that make you alert, motivated, all the things that you want, right? So I would say get up as soon as you can force yourself, take a cold shower.
But wait a minute, we're looking at light first. We're drinking our coffee, no?
Or you can just go straight to the cold, or you could do it after the light. I'm a sunlight first thing. I'm up and to the sunlight.
How many minutes, if I take a cold shower, what are we looking at?
If it's really cold, 1 minute, you're done.
That's it.
If it's not very cold, or you're finding that like, I can do 3 minutes, then 3 minutes.
And then are we instantly turning on the hot water?
Okay, so here's the thing. If you want to, because I like to end with warm or hot water because it just feels so good. You'll still get the dopamine increase. But there's a scientist out of Scandinavia. Her name is Susanna Soberg. She has really terrific work. In fact, I recommend people follow her on social media if they're interested in this kind of thing, heat and cold.
Okay.
She's done some great work showing what I call the Soberg principle. So in science, you're not allowed to name things after yourself. It's considered too egotistical, but it's kind to name things after other scientists. So I call this the Soberg principle, which is if you want to increase your metabolism, end with cold because it forces your body to heat up on its own.
Okay.
So you get out and you're like, you can still towel off, you can put your clothes on, you move about the day.
A guy like me with fast metabolism.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have much body fat to lose unless you're hiding it all like under that sweatshirt.
It's all in my ankles.
Yeah, you don't have much body fat to lose, so I don't think you need the metabolic increase. So what I would recommend is that you do 1 minute to 3 minutes of cold, but like really uncomfortably cold.
Okay.
Like this sucks kind of cold. I really want to get out. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in a second.
Okay.
And then, hit the heat and warm up and put on your clothes and go.
Because you were talking about like when you jump into the cold and then into the sauna and then back into the cold. I mean, like how am I heating myself up and getting the shower into a hot, like a kind of an uncomfortable hotness?
No. You don't want to burn yourself with
Yeah,
water.
no, not burn, but really heat up your core.
I don't think you want to do that. It's a nice hot shower if you like hot showers, just for comfort.
I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. Literally, like I'm wondering.
Like
Tissue damage is real with heat. With cold, you can get away with a lot more. But of course, if you get into 28-degree water, you can burn all sorts of essential parts of your body with cold, right? So uncomfortable but safe. And so some people say, well, how cold? Well, you only need to be in the cold for 60 seconds if it's 40-degree water. If it's 60, so some people, their showers won't go that cold.
Right.
Then what you want to do is make it that really annoyingly not hot enough feeling and stay in there about 5 minutes.
Because I'm just imagining, like, this is what I would start with or start to do. I'm just imagining a lot of people listening to this are like, oh, yeah, I'm with Chris. I could just jump in the shower, cold. Like, I'm not going to go in and buy a cold plunge or go buy ice and all the,
And it's a budget thing. I mean, listen,
budget
$5
thing,
grand
for sure.
is $5 grand. I mean, I'm not being blasé about that. The cold shower is a real...
It's a starter kit, right? Like you could...
And you know what? Some people just stick with that.
Okay.
Because you want to create the lowest number of barriers possible to doing something every day. So that's like sunlight, beeline for sunlight. Or I usually, if you want to know the order that I do, I get up, I probably use the bathroom, but I get some water. I want to hydrate. Sometimes I do put Element in it. Yes, they're a podcast sponsor, but yeah. But sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll just have water.
Okay.
And then I'll go outside and get some sunlight. No sunglasses. Admittedly, sometimes I'll post on social media or look at social media. Then I go in and I never want to get into the cold. I never want to get into the cold.
force yourself.
That's why I do 1 minute to 3 minutes cold shower or 1 minute to 3 minutes in the cold plunge. Because I do happen to have a cold plunge. Once you've done that, the rest of your day will just domino into a series of better things, just because of the elevation in mood, motivation, metabolism, and all those kinds of things. You also might find
It's like ripping the
that
Band-Aid off.
aches and pains, like that, it will reduce inflammation and it will speed the recovery of different injuries. Now, there's a little bit of debate nowadays. People are like, oh, should you go in the cold immediately after weightlifting or something. If you're weightlifting to get big, like B-Bowl big, don't get into the cold plunge in the 8 hours after you weight train, because it reduces inflammation, and inflammation is part of the stimulus that creates
You're
that
breaking
muscle
up
growth.
muscles. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I said B-Bowl big. I think I ran into him in a gym 2 years ago or something. And
He's big.
He's big.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, he's
like he's like
definitely
LA gym big. Yeah.
Now he's
Okay.
Miami gym big.
Yeah.
Oh, he's no longer in town.
Yeah, he lives in Miami now.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't tracked. By the way, for those listening, I haven't tracked the individual careers of skateboarders in forever. This year for SOTY, I like put my vote on social media and got
Who
attacked.
was your vote?
Well, I think Tyshawn is great, right? Is it Tyshawn or Tyshawn? Tyshawn. Excuse me, Tyshawn. I was super happy to see him win. So I put him in. And then the kid who, is his name Tristan? Frontside Ollie, the long bench at China Banks.
Yeah.
Nuts.
And then a couple of people kind of gave me some pokes about my choices in the DMs. And I'll just leave it at that. I don't think anyone disputed that Tyshawn deserved it. I mean,
No, there's no dispute, but it was just an exciting SOTY run this year.
I just said this is an incredibly heavy lineup. Like everybody was.
We are all rooting for Nigel just because, but at the same time, not to take anything away from Tyshawn, he's amazing. We all just thought that it was one of those moments where this would probably been Nigel's moment, and if he didn't get this moment, he probably is never going to get this moment.
And now, given who he is, he'll probably make sure that it happens in the future.
I don't know. I really don't know if that will ever be the case.
I saw his part.
Nigel's 28 years old, so there's that factor too of like him just he's
he's from Davis,
he's
right?
skating better than ever.
I kind of wanted to see him win also. Because he's from Davis, and I went to graduate school up there and love that town. Just like a kid from Davis going as high and far as he has. I mean, Nigel's part was just crazy. Like some of it
it's unrelatable.
It's unrelatable. It's almost like he's riding real life like man-sized rails, as if it were like a little like fingerboard part.
Yeah.
It's like doesn't make sense.
Totally.
Like something about it doesn't make sense.
Tyshawn is more relatable and kind of more of our kind of skating.
1,000%.
Yeah. I also like seeing people skateboarding in New York City.
Yeah.
But I think for me what sealed it was not the clip that they put on Thrasher for that week. It was the he like rides into a schoolyard and does like a switch ollie long ways over a picnic table, but clears it by like this much and just makes it look so easy. Just
to switch ollie that high and that far, going that fast,
Twice.
He did it twice.
Twice.
Yeah, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
You ever try to do a trick going fast? I mean, it's hard to control.
But I think I sent Blayback eventually. Sometimes I'll just call him and I'll be like, "You got to get your phone out right now," and then we'll just like go back and forth. He just laughs.
I'm on my phone though.
You know, it's crazy. I mean, that was incredible. But look, they were all incredible. And that ollie at China Banks.
Yeah, that's unreal, dude.
I mean, if anyone's ever been to China Banks, first of all, it's like a health hazard just going there because like you fall once and you're gonna get like pigeon feces in your elbow, like you might die just from that, and it's disgusting and the weather sucks. Yeah, there it is.
You got it right here.
Yeah, and he's got a Jägermeister shirt on. How appropriate.
We heard a story that he was completely hungover that day. And like
Sometimes that's when you get your best work.
I like how he pushed out of there. Like he wants to get away from the pigeon shit as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
God, that was so gnarly.
Oh, that's how he went for it. I actually didn't see this part. Look at that. Big old Mongo pushing then.
That's weird how that works though, Kelly. Like, you know, he had probably one of those really rough nights, then woke up the next day and just handled it.
Some people have that where I remember going on trips and people just be so hungover and they would just destroy it the next day. And I'm like, I was never that guy.
Frosty was that guy. Oh
Frosty?
my God.
Oh,
dude.
yeah?
Yeah, many a time. But go out and win a contest. We were fucking out the night before.
See all the bird shit?
Yeah. Is there something to that?
Being hungover?
Yeah. Because we especially in skateboarding, we do see that. Maybe you're looser. You're not thinking about it as much.
Yeah.
You're just kind of.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Then we'll get back to cold exposure.
Yeah,
You know, there is this idea that if you're thinking too much or thinking too hard, that your body can't access the kind of mental operations for complex motor movement, right? So it's this tightrope walk between not paying attention and paying attention. Now, I think we talked about this a little bit last time, but you know, you've got unskilled, skilled, mastery, which is like, you know, nail the kickflip every time, like nail the heel flip every time, you know, nail the crooks every time, you know, switch crooks every time. And then there's virtuosity. And the virtuosity is really about kind of what we were talking about before we started rolling today, which is the great Jimmy Wilkins, right? Which is you almost get the sense that the person themselves doesn't really know what they're going to do next until the last moment. And then the motor command just kind of emerges from them. And you see this in kind of elite performers in any domain. And it can only be built up through just practice. And you see it in music. So I'm grateful, and I'm not name dropping here, but I guess I mentioned before already. So if you can name drop twice. The same name. Like my friend Rick Rubin he has an episode coming out on our podcast about creativity. He has an amazing book on creativity coming out soon called The Creative Act. And you know, people have picked his brain for years about like, how do you like create this incredible stuff with these music artists? Why can they do this with you so much more readily than they can with other people? And he and I have talked about this in the realm of science and sport. He's a big fan of professional wrestling, and he talks about virtuosity there. And what you're trying to do is find people who have just practiced, and then you put them in environments where they feel enough freedom, enough looseness, where they're not thinking about trying to deliver the product for somebody else, and they're able to just let it kind of come up through their spontaneity at times. So it's structure and spontaneity. And so to answer your question, I think when we're a little bit sleep deprived, not a lot, but a little bit sleep deprived, or for some people when they're just really relaxed. For some people that requires alcohol. For some people it requires a hangover. So some people, they use cannabis, right? We've done episodes of our podcast, by the way, on the health effects and benefits of cannabis. We talked about the mostly health. There aren't many benefits of alcohol. There's a threshold of about 2 drinks per week where you're probably okay, beyond which you need to do more things to offset it, right? And none is better than some, by the way. And then we also talked about nicotine, which does have health benefits. So just want to say, like, some people, they find the right combo of chemicals and situation that favor that kind of relaxed expression. And I mean, I used to feel this, it's been years, but I remember like pushing home at the end of the day and I'm exhausted and like maybe I'm beat up and falling a lot. And all of a sudden you just decide like you're just going to, you know, like do something over that manhole or up that curb, and all of a sudden it just happens. And you're like, what happened? And I think sometimes when we're not like tight and just trying so hard to make something, it just kind of flows from us. And this is kind of abstract, but what you need to do is you need to have the thousands or 10,000s of repetitions doing something so that when it emerges, it's available to you. Your kit is just right there hovering below the surface. This is why I always think we liked watching Gons skate. I think he was one of the first people I ever saw like really using the city differently. But there were times also when he would just like do things like I don't know, like ollie some railing and then go into some like layback slide on the street and just like, but it didn't look stupid because it looks like it sort of emerged in the moment. And it looked like he was having fun.
He's just flowing.
And I think that's really what's special. And we were talking about Jimmy, and we'll just talk about Jimmy this whole time because I'm just I mean, I've seen him skate in person and it's crazy.
You have a crush?
Nah, I mean, listen, if I would, you could give me $1 billion. You give me $10 billion. I wouldn't stop podcasting. If you said, here's money for you to stop podcasting, because I love learning and teaching. I would never stop doing so. There's no amount of money you could pay me to stop. Okay? You want to stop me, you got to kill me. There's maybe one trade I'd make, which is that if you told me, look, you know, you can skateboard like Jimmy Wilkins. I might be like, well, that's a tough one. But of course, he earned it, right? Like it's like the power slides to me are the best. We're watching this now.
Yeah.
Okay. What is just... Yeah.
How you look like that?
Yeah.
He's very magical.
Yeah, when we went and saw him down at Tony's ramp, and it's just, you know, I wasn't telling him, I mean, I know better than to tell somebody, do this, do that. Just watching him skate, but I did ask him, like, do you know in the moment, are you going to, like, bash the tail on the way in or disaster those ridiculously high backside ollies? And he's like, no, just kind of like, he just decides it in the moment, which is, I think, half the reason why it's so much fun to watch. Because if it were all just a line that he just kicked out over and over again, frankly, I think it'd be boring to him and it'd be boring to us after a while.
Like, you're still going to be stoked he did it, but
It's because you don't know what he's going to do.
That's the
like
thing.
nobody goes to a live concert to hear the album. Mm-hmm. They go to a live concert to see something unusual.
Well, that's why I like when I watch like Tampa Pro or something and you see Louis Lopez or Nashad and you're like, yeah, they have their rundown, but they're just kind of flowing the park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like they don't know what they're going to be doing. The couple last tricks are just,
And sometimes
it's exciting.
And they land everything and they win.
Yeah.
And it's like Louis Lopez did that one year, a couple years ago. Or Ashad does it a lot actually.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have any plan for a run, and
He just flows.
he just flows.
Well, and that's where I think it's so much more exciting to watch something that's dynamic where the person can't control everything. I'm not a surfer, but I have to imagine that because surfing is in part dictated by the waves and not just the surfer, sort of a duh, that there must be some spontaneity in it that makes it more exciting. But then I think, for instance, about the difference between skate park runs and GX 1000. We talked about them last time and kind of like how gnarly and in their limbic brain they are. But that recent, like Here for Pablo, maybe it's nuts.
Yeah.
Like from start to finish, the whole thing is scary and dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing. And I mean, growing up there in the city, like, and yeah, they have spotters at some intersections, but the one kid hits the car and just like explodes.
Yeah.
I think he walked away from that, right?
For sure.
Yeah,
sure.
but that was scary.
The
to
driver's
watch.
dead, but he walked
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
scary to
it
watch.
is anxiety. I took a cold shower. I took an ice bath after that. I mean,
He's bringing us back. So the ice bath.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ice, by the way, it's a sign of intelligence to be able to spin multiple plates and jump back and forth. It's not ADHD. That's something different. We can talk about ADHD is different. ADHD is very different. So I'm glad you brought us back. The effects of that cold are really tremendous. But the way I think people should approach the cold is the following. Rather than say 1 to 3 minutes, I want you to think about it as a series of walls that relate to the release of adrenaline in your system. So if you wake up tomorrow and you're like, I don't want to do this. That's one wall. And if you can get over that wall and into the shower and then turn it on, and you're like, oh, I want to get out, but you relax yourself or grit it out, doesn't really matter. You've made it over another wall. I recommend counting walls. Then what will happen is, you're like in there 30 seconds, and you're like, I can do this all day. But that next wall will come, you go over the next one. So I would say go 3 to 5 walls.
Okay.
That's the way to think about it rather than for time, because in the real gift of deliberate cold exposure is that in real life, you're going to get those walls of adrenaline, and it's the same mechanism, and you'll start to recognize it as, like this completely sucks. I want to get out of this environment. I'm just going to get through this wall. And then another and another. And so what happens is you're able to translate a practice that, yes, it reduces inflammation, increases metabolism, increases dopamine, catecholamines, and so forth. But it's the same underlying mechanism as you want to try something and you're scared. The wall is to like just ride up to it. That's wall number one. The next one is just bump up there and then jump off. And here I'm talking about it as if I did all these things. I want to be very clear because there's some people from my past who are going to come after me with stories and videos. Like, again, skateboarder, I'm a lifer, but
that was always.
But I was never super gnarly. I don't think I really hit puberty in full early enough to like really be aggressive skateboarding. It just wasn't there. It didn't feel available to me. And then later in life, I got into doing some really dangerous things in terms of physical stuff, right? Wow. Which doesn't matter what it was. But like, yeah, like I boxed a lot of rounds, done cage exit shark diving with great whites. I've done all that stuff that can get you killed and give you brain damage. Don't recommend any of that. But with skateboarding, it's different because I saw growing up, some guys just really could like get to that edge. It was like, like Henry, like blink every 6 minutes Sanchez, right? He was just like just so aggro. Like, and you could tell like he was in a battle with his adrenaline. Or the Cardiel thing where he's just looked all excited, right? I remember that and seeing that, and it was different. It wasn't they were like super mellow. They were like in a battle with their own internal landscape. And so I do think there's value to learning how to push through adrenaline in an adaptive way. You don't want to be stupid, right? But learning how to be like calm enough and going, okay, it's not about 3 minutes like this. It's about, can I get 2 meters closer to this goal over and over and over?
Yeah. That's where I thought it was good for me growing up skating was like that first try was a huge wall right there to get over because you're looking at the spot. You're like, I don't know how this is going to go. And that one try, you just completely bail. You could fly down the stairs, totally landing your ass. You're like, oh, that was awesome. Yeah. Now I know what to do.
Next one right
Listen,
here.
I mean, I was I was pretty terrible, but I was, not terrible enough. There's like an eight stair set at Stanford that I still walk past in the chemistry building from time to time. And I remember falling super hard on that stairwell, and it feels so much better to just slam, and then you feel like you can just run to the top of the stairs and do it again.
Right. Yeah,
kicking it away is way worse. There's no question.
Yeah.
Like a good hard slam wakes you up. And when I say wakes you up, what do I mean? It's literally adrenaline into your system. Adrenaline is an amazing molecule. It acts as a pain buffer. It's an anti-inflammatory. It sharpens your vision, but it also narrows your vision. And so you have to remember sometimes to like not get so narrowly in that tunnel. And that's where I think that when people are in these slightly more relaxed states, maybe it's a hangover, although I'm not recommending that approach, but maybe it's just a way of like, some people listen to certain music.
Yeah.
That's why I never really understood the guys that were just like, oh, Slayer, go, 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 right? We talked about that last time. Like people were kind of jazzy about it. And like that, and jazz is probably the best word for it, because with jazz, it's the spontaneity is what's interesting. People would go hear jazz to hear the spontaneous
freestyle
riffs. It's that you didn't know what was going to happen, that you don't know what's going to happen. So I think there are a bunch of ways to access this. And some people are more chill, like they're more in that flow across the day. I had a girlfriend back in 2017, and she used to say, "Flow don't fight," and I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" We weren't in a fight, but everything for me was like forward center of mass. And she was, kind of a hippie.
Okay.
And it was cool. Like she could do her thing really, really well, and some people just are more like that in life. They're more of that kind of animal. And I think whatever kind of animal you are, you want to try and balance it out 80-20. You got to be who you are.
Yeah. 100%.
But me, even just look at the way like Tristan's pushing towards China Banks. Like he's not gonna be like I'm gonna just like cruise up to the front side all the long bench at China Banks. Like no, it's like it's war in that moment. But
for sure,
it's not 100%. There's no way you can make something like just with that that like trying to like deadlift 800 pounds kind of mentality because there's so much more involved. So I think learning how to play around those margins of focus, defocus, that's how you get really good at anything, including, podcasting, or we do live shows now, like Huberman Lab, we did this live thing. And the first couple of them, I felt okay. It was kind of choppy. By the last one in New York, I went out there 2 hours, did my thing, a lot of science talk, a lot of stories and stuff. I don't remember anything that happened.
Blacked out.
Completely. I came off there and I was like, was that all right? And they were just like, you're good. And I was like, I don't remember anything because the whole point is to be spontaneous.
How many people?
I'm very blessed. We sold out 4 shows. We about somewhere between 2,800 and 3,500 people.
Wow!
At one time or total?
At one time.
Wow!
Yeah. So we did the Beacon Theater on the final night. It was fun. I never try and be funny, but every once in a while I'll crack jokes or something. But it was kind of scary because Andrew Scholes was in the audience.
Oh wow!
And it was like real comedians, right? I'm not trying to be a comedian by any stretch. It was fun.
But you've given lectures before, right? It was kind of the same.
Yeah, this is a little different. It's kind of structured science entertainment stuff, some Q&A.
People paid to be there?
Honestly, I don't really know what happens. I just see Blayback in the wings, my producer in the wings, our kid Ian, and then I guess people don't know this, but Chris and Martin,
Chris Ray.
Chris Ray and Martin Phobes from DC. Are our video guys. So when I see them, I feel safe.
Right.
And I'm just like, I'm really sorry if I blow it. And I just go out there and do it. So
it's amazing.
So your social media, are you choosing what you're posting? Or does someone kind of run that whole thing?
I do all that. I do all my own Instagram, all my own Twitter. I'm in the comments.
That's a lot, dude.
Yeah, I do all those. And then Chris and Martin cut the clips. Those guys are amazing.
Do you tell them what you want?
Right, Chris is, they do a bunch with GoPro.
Yeah. Chris has been on the show.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris. I should know. Of course, I watched your episode, Chris. I'll watch it. That guy's amazing. A little poke and shout out to Chris. So I'm an academic, so I'm always late. I said 10 o'clock today. I think it was 10:25.
Yeah.
Like I'm always late. This just goes with the academic thing. Absent-minded professor. But Chris Ray, if you tell him to be someplace, so we're starting at 1 p.m., he will be there at 11 a.m.
Right.
Parked in his truck. It's insane. His work ethic and Martin's work ethic, Blayback's work ethic are just unbelievable.
You got a solid team over there.
Unbelievable. At Blayback, 3,500 photos a night.
Yeah.
Just like after we're all done. Yeah, I'm there like watching the Sinead O'Connor documentary, just chilling. It's pretty good. Hey, you know where I learned about Sinead
Yeah,
O'Connor?
right.
So I was at one of those Quartermaster Cup lock-ins where you guys are too young for this, I guess. They lock you into the Powell
Yeah,
factory.
yeah. So all
And I
night.
remember it was either, I can't remember if it was Mike. I think it was Mike. We called him Mikey, Mike Carroll. And he had headphones on. It was like, Walkman, what do you listen to? He's like, Sinead O'Connor. And I was like, it's okay to listen to Sinead O'Connor. Yeah. That's a crazy documentary because it crosses over her musical talent, but also some crazy stuff that she called out the Catholic Church on, but then a lot of mental illness stuff because she's bipolar. Anyway, I'm like watching documentaries, sealed up the live thing, and then there's just Mike just churning away on photo after photo after photo in the middle of the night.
Can we go back to the social media thing really quickly? Because I think because you spend a lot of time on social media.
I do. Yeah.
You hear a lot of negative things about social media, right? About, seeing other people doing their thing and depression and whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you hear a lot of negatives, right?
Right.
But it seems like you're on it a lot and you post, maybe you're posting more than you're consuming? Or do you have a certain buffer where you are like, okay, I need
have a
to
time limit?
Yeah, I need to stop.
Are you talking about my
this.
main account or my burner account? No, I'm just kidding.
Let's do both.
Just kidding. I don't have a burner account. I wanted a burner account, but then Blayback told me some story about, was it LeBron who got caught? He had a burner account and got caught or something like that. So
I didn't know
he got
that.
caught
all right,
with
someone's
it.
trolling you. It's
There
not
you
me.
go.
Okay.
So social media, that was tricky because we started the podcast exactly 2 years ago, and things grew really quick. And I would say with each big inflection, you're kind of exposed to a new level of attack. And it really helps that I have my producer, this guy Rob Moore, MOHR. He's amazing. He also produces the podcast The Fight with Teddy Atlas. Just the best dude. Like they're really like, it's called Huberman Lab Podcast, but the guys I mentioned, Chris Martin, Ian, Mike, and me, it's like that's the Huberman Lab Podcast.
Sure.
It truly, if Rob wasn't involved, and probably some of the other guys too, Mike and Ian, Chris and Martin, like if any of them go, we're done. Like I know it sounds weird, but it's like I need them. And so Rob sits in there with me for the solo episodes, but also, I'll just give an example over Thanksgiving of this year. Like I put out some post about a fitness thing that's worked really well for me. It's based in the science, and I was catching some flack on Twitter or something. And I kind of pushed back on this one guy, and I was kind-ish, but I was like, apparently your thumbs work very well or something. Like I said something that was like it wasn't in my best mode.
Okay.
Mostly because, but I was genuinely trying to engage a dialogue. I didn't mean anything by it. But and Rob wrote to me. This is over Thanksgiving. He's like,
what are you doing?
He's like, maybe take a break from Twitter or something. And it wasn't a contentious interaction, but it really helps to have people there like that. Because what you need sometimes is somebody who has the outside perspective.
For sure.
I've never gotten into an argument ever on social media. But there have been many times when someone will say something, I'm like, wow, like they're really exploiting a misunderstanding to try and kind of just be cruel. And what bothers me is when people are cruel to other people.
Right.
Like people can come at me all they want. Like I'm happy to talk science. I mean, that's what we do in my business. But I think for most people, they don't have that person kind of riding shotgun with them that can calibrate them and just say, hey, listen, like this person clearly is, looking for a fight, or they're exploiting a misunderstanding, or maybe this is opportunity for something else. So I feel for most people because I do have the benefit of I handle all my own social media, but I'm always aware that we're a team. So I have rules for myself, and I think everybody should have rules and filters. First of all, I don't put anything out into the world unless I think it's going to be of benefit to the audience. It's not for my ego. It's not for me. I really try and make it a give. I like to teach, and I like to see people benefit. You have to have rules, right? I don't get into battles. I don't get into back and forth. But I am also on there because I like paying attention to the landscape and how things are changing. I realize most people are on Instagram in our crowd, not so much Twitter. But, my good friend Lex Friedman, and he and Elon are like batting comments back and forth on Twitter, and everyone's kind of watching this thing unfold. Twitter's pretty active lately. But on Instagram too, I mean, I think, you need to have filters. And then I don't have time limits, but I'm paying attention to the landscape. Kind of like if you were to step back and be like end of 2022 right now as we're recording this, where's skateboarding at? Like, how is it different than last year? Where's it going? I love those kinds of analyses. Same thing with podcasting. I'm like, wow, it's really, listen, Joe Rogan has been sitting top of the heap for a long time. They've tried to cancel him. He's apologized for his mistakes. He's never taken interviews with traditional media. He's done so many things that it's clear, like, he owns the podcast space.
Sure.
And he deserves it, frankly. He's an extremely good person. He cares about people. He deserves it. And yes, he's been very good to me, but also he's just a really good person. There are a number of other podcasts out there. I like to just kind of see what's happening.
For sure.
I notice fewer crime podcasts. The number of crime podcasts is starting to kind of drop. People are getting a little tired of that. I think the Dahmer thing came out, and everyone's like, we're done.
It's back up.
I can't watch it. I watched the trailer.
Oh,
and
you
I
haven't seen it?
No. Well, I like the actor that played Dahmer because he played Quicksilver in the X-Men. And I love the X-Men. Do you remember that?
I didn't put
Magneto's
that
son?
together.
Yeah, okay. So in, I think it was like Days of Futures Past. Anyway, that actor is great, but it just freaked me out.
Yeah.
And I just like couldn't do it.
Oh,
Did you watch it?
I watched it, and then it was crazy because that was before my time.
How's your sleep?
You know what? It was just like crazy that actually happened. You know what I mean? Like, to really think
And
that
not that long ago.
Yeah, and like I would look back online and watch the actual interviews of him, and I'm like, what?
He nailed it.
Did you see it?
Yeah, it was great.
The document.
Did you sleep
liked
okay
it?
after?
I was fine, yeah.
I watched it one episode
I
and,
just watched the first
and a
one.
half. 1.5. I was like, I'm done with this. I can't. It's just too.
Not that I was done with it. I'll watch it. I just watched the first episode. I thought it was cool, and I'm into that type of shit anyway.
Yeah.
So, like Lex Friedman, very close friend of mine, he loves exploring like the dark side of the human psyche. And I'm aware that it's there, but certain things just, they just worm their way into my brain. I have a little bit of OCD. So it's hard for me to, like, once I really start noodling on something, to let it go. Oh. So I watched one little bit of that, and I was like, I'm going to spare myself this.
What do you think?
I'll pay money not to see this, but not because I was afraid. I was just kind of afraid that it would invade my thinking a little bit too much.
What do you? Can I just ask you a question? We're on social media really quick. What do you think is behind negativity, herd mentality, where everybody kind of jumps on board? Like, what is it that social media, it's like driving a car, right? You're very, hey, motherfucker, da, 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 you know what I mean? But then that's not you.
That was you the other day?
That was you. Oh my God.
On BCH.
100%. 100%. But then you get out of the car and you're not that person.
Right.
Well, I mean, what is it, do you think? Have you
Well,
thought
psychologists
about
have
this?
studied this. Like, when you have a number of buffers between people, they're willing to do things that they wouldn't do face to face.
Right.
But that's sort of a given. Like, let's say you were just avatars online, and you'd probably shoot people as an avatar because it's like a video game.
Yeah.
But if you look, certain people online, they're sort of like avatars, like the ridiculous Liver King thing.
Yeah.
Like that's a human being. Like, his name is Brian, actually. He's a human being, but he sort of became an avatar and then kind of lost track of whether or not he was lying or telling the truth. He knew he was lying. He admitted to it. Actually, I know someone very close to him, and everyone knew he was lying. But he sort of separated the mission from the avatar, from the person, in a way that was convenient for him financially, and probably had to do with some earlier stuff. No one really does that unless they're kind of miswired inside. And I say this with genuine, like, sympathy. I hope he gets, like, serious therapy, right? That, and I hope he gives back some of the money that he, stripped people of, because I do think that there was a category of person, like, very misled. I just, as a brief side, because normally I wouldn't get into this, but it's one thing to lie. He actually used the lie as marketing, and actually took clips of me and Joe talking about him on the Joe Rogan podcast as he should just come clean. He's clearly on steroids, and he used that as a marketing clip, saying that he wasn't.
Right.
So that's a whole other world of deception. It's one thing to just like be like one of these major actors who's clearly on steroids and just not talk about it. It's another to use the lie as a 180 degree
As
off
a catalyst
marketing.
for
It's very
your-
different.
Right.
Very, very different.
Right.
So that said, I think that most people online are somewhere between their real self and the person that they feel they are online. And so it's easier for them to throw punches and say things that they wouldn't say face to face. And it's not because they don't think there's an impact. The whole goal is to, like, on Twitter, there's this whole thing of like slam dunking on somebody,
Sure.
right? It's really bad.
Yeah.
And the reason it's bad is that it taps into a side of us that, the great psychologist Carl Jung said, that we all have all things inside of us. I mean, Jung believed that any of us could have been Dahmer or a saint, that literally the brain circuits for all of that exist in all of us, but that through healthy parenting, through healthy self-governance, if you didn't have healthy parenting, through interactions with people where you learn goodness, you learn that being good has virtue and that being bad has consequences, that we become hopefully better and good more than we are bad.
Sure.
And of course, there is about, probably about 1% to 2% of humans, men and women, are true sociopaths. They do have no empathy. And the dopamine hit for them is really getting one over on somebody. When you hear about these con men, for instance, like that, like they will, it seems that the stories are often like they, ripping off people, who, elderly people for their life fortunes, or women like deceiving them to get their money, that those people clearly are sociopathic, right? But online, most people aren't sociopathic. And so what they're doing is they're out there to try and, I really think, to just try and engage. And I think that I do think social media has its great benefits, but in its darker form, people are very isolated and they're looking for some sort of interaction. They want to feel something in the same way that no one wants to eat styrofoam.
But why are people going after a negative feeling?
Well, there's an incredible study that was done by a guy named Robert Heath, in 3 studies actually in the 1960s, where people had electrodes embedded into their brain and they had the option of stimulating any brain area. So they'd stimulate one brain area and they'd feel kind of drunk, stimulate another brain area, they'd feel kind of happy, stimulate another area, they'd think about sex, stimulate another area, they'd, they might start crying. The number one brain area, the area that people preferred to stimulate more than any other area, was the one that generated mild frustration and anger. So there does seem to be some sort of reward signal internally for being kind of in friction.
Is it a dopamine release?
Yeah, probably, and other neurochemicals as well. And, you can sort of make a joke like, oh, well, those people become lawyers or whatever, but I know some lawyers that really like to argue. And I know some lawyers that are just really into the tactical stuff about like detailed contracts. And, thank goodness those people are out there too. Right. I know people that hate to argue.
Right.
Like I hate to argue unless it's about something that I really care. Like I think the outcome actually has a significance for me or for the world. Right. So we're all guilty of, not seeking a fight, but when the fight is presented to us, of feeling a kind of gravitational pull toward it. And I think it's deeply embedded in our psychology, and it probably has some adaptive evolutionary underpinning. But we all have to kind of, when you say take the higher ground or take some perspective, to quote Jocko Willink, he was just on our podcast, he's a big believer in literally taking a physical, I'll do this, get away from the microphone, like literally stepping away, a step back in your physical space to just like disengage a little bit in order to be able to be more tactical.
Well, I mean, people in, like our position or your position, I mean, you do get the criticism, you do get the
inevitably
mean people and everything.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you don't, start a conversation or a fight on, I mean, it's just going to, it ends nowhere, right?
I often will like the negative comments. That's kind of my response. Like if someone says something really nasty, as long as it's not going to mislead people seeing it into thinking that what they said was true, if they're wrong. If somebody says something,
offhand, off-putting.
Like I've been very supportive of certain people online whose work I love. Dr. Susanna Soberg does amazing work. People should follow her account on deliberate heat exposure, deliberate cold. Amazing scientist out of Scandinavia. Lex Friedman, fellow podcaster. Rich Roll. I mean, just other people. So I'll make a comment about something, and then sometimes people will say things like, they'll make fun of the fact that it's kind of sappy and that there's so much love in the picture. Yeah. And this is the way colleagues support one another. For sure. And so when they do that and they make fun of it, I just love them right back. And that feels good because you're like the fact that you only have you don't have a thumbs up, thumbs down. I just love them right back. And that diffuses it all, right? Yeah. It's sort of like somebody getting in your face and you just kind of like give them a little peck on the cheek.
Well, it's like we talk about this on the show sometimes, like people will hit us up and they'll say something crazy and then you'll be like, hey dude, sorry about that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh dude, you're the best. Thanks for responding. Yeah. And you're like, you didn't need to say any of that. I don't know
They
why.
just threw out the fucking fishing wire. Like, let me see if they're gonna bite. Here they go.
Exactly. I think everything is like high school. I mean, I could tell you more about the curbs in the parking lot of high school than I could about the classes. Like, kids go to class, but I didn't attend much. But when I did go, every once in a while, it's funny because I run into people from my high school now and they're like, you weren't even there. And it's true. I really wasn't there. Not much anyway. I was at EMB.
There you go.
Yeah, daytime.
Yeah.
Safest in the daytime, most fun in the daytime. I think, they in high school, you get these kids that would just say like ridiculous stuff, or that would like bring something stupid to class that you're just like, what are you doing? And it's just a way to engage because they didn't know how to engage.
Class
I think you're seeing a lot of that.
Yes,
I think we were talking about alcohol earlier. I think a lot of people are also posting drunk.
Just drunk.
We forget people are posting drunk. So like a lot of times, like there should be like a little like thing, like a blue check if for a verified account, and like
Gotta blow into
I don't
your
know, like a
phone.
bottle for if you're inebriated or something. Because I think a lot of people are posting drunk. And then what I also like is I'm big on this. It's kind of a concept from engineering is signal to noise. Jimmy Wilkins, big signal to noise, right? Jim Thiebaud, big signal to noise. Like I love going to accounts like Jim's because it's like it's all love, right?
It's all positive.
Like the best dude. And I feel so blessed. He came up last time, but because of coming on here, like he and I synced up and I went up to Deluxe and I actually got a package this year.
Nice.
Like bringing me back to when I was a kid. Like he sent me a little holiday package. Thank you, Jim. But we got a day there in the warehouse just catching up. And, there's somebody who, again, can't say enough good things about Jim. And no, he's not going to come on the 9 Club. I asked him. I told him I'd kidnap him and drive him here. And he was like, no. I think you'll get him one of these days.
He'll eventually.
Yeah, he'll do it. Sorry,
Yeah.
I hope he does. But sorry, Jim.
The whole world hopes that he does. Yeah.
Be so good. Be so good. The world would be so blessed to have that. But we talked a lot about like how he ended up doing what he did in skateboarding and why he does what he does, and the accounts like him, like even if it's just his board on a curb at like at the
motivates people.
at the Rockridge curbs or something like that. Like you're just like, there's so much goodness there. So it's big signal to noise against all the chatter. And so what I like to remember is that no matter what you're looking at on social media, you should ask yourself, is this in the signal or is it in the noise? And 99.9999% of the time, the negative stuff is in the noise.
Noise, right.
Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. And it's like those kids in the hallway at high school just say something stupid and you're just like it's just like, why stop and have that conversation?
Yeah.
So, I don't have any, brilliant insight around this, but I think people have a gravitational pull towards negativity. We're hardwired for that. We all need to fight it. Some of us are more peace loving than others, but some people really like to engage and have a fight. I think most people are bored. Some of those people are drunk. Some of them are genuinely mentally not well.
Right.
Some of them are lonely.
And some are lonely. And it's also like, how are you going to show up? When there have been real criticism, like I got some real criticism about some of my non-choices for guests on the podcast, I wrote to someone in DMs, the equivalent of DMs on Twitter, and just said, hey, give me your phone number, let's hop on a call. Or here's my email, let's hop on a call.
This is non-guests, who people you don't have on the show.
I have no idea who these people are. And I was like, so I will literally make a phone call and be like, hey, like you commented that you'd like to see more of this type of guest. Do you have any ideas of who? Because I think the point being that I think a lot of people just want their opinion to matter.
Sure.
And they're like screaming from the rooftops and no one's listening.
Yeah.
And that tends to amplify the kind of acting out behavior because no one's listening. So you just kind of give them an ear. And I've gotten some great ideas. Or if someone says like, you should have had this person on instead, I usually say, wasn't aware of who they are. Can you point me to any good resources? And then you get the response you were talking about. Then they're like, oh, oh yeah, thank you so much. And they just really wanted to communicate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, take it all with a grain of salt. I don't know how it is for skateboarders specifically, but listen, I go on to your site, Thrasher site, Real, bunch of other, and I comment, and I'm sure people just like, I'm like the old guy, I'm like out of it, I put in my vote for SOTY. Some people liked it, some people didn't, and I think, skateboarders are always going to be attacking one another because that's what they do. They make fun of one another. That's like half of skateboarding. But I would like to see more love in it because the community is so unique and so special. And hopefully there is. Maybe I'm out of touch with the times. Maybe there is more love nowadays. I mean, it was a lot of hazing when I was coming up, and it was just part of it.
I think there's a lot more love for sure.
big time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but it's still there. But like all the people making fun of each other, blah blah, it's still there. But there's so much more love now.
No, that's
But also the pond
That's
is
good.
growing.
Yeah.
The
Big
pond is growing, and the pond's getting bigger and
Right.
bigger and bigger. So
The people from our generation that we did in the early 90s, there was a lot of hate, a lot of, funny shit going on.
clicks,
But
crews.
yeah, but nowadays, I think those guys that are now in their later 30s, early 40s, bro, everybody gives each other love. Because at the end of the day, this is a small industry. It's not the biggest. It is growing. But, like, the love has got to stay strong. I mean, if we want this to be, here in the future in a strong way where it's of value, yeah, we have to start loving more each other. I think that's just my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't mean that it can't be competitive either. I think like the whole notion of like brotherhood, sisterhood kind of community is really key. I think one of the things I've learned the last few years that I saw in science, not as much as I would have liked, and I'm still running my lab, so I'm still in it, but, and I'd like to see more of in the podcasting sphere. And hopefully this is happening in skateboarding, is that if you are somebody who's made it to the place of any kind of significance or impact, take the knowledge that you've acquired and pass it on. Tell people about it. Don't charge them for it. Just tell them what worked for you and what didn't work for you.
Yeah.
Not from a place of you understand everything, but because times change, sure, landscapes change, but do that because that actually is a way, and this isn't the reason to do it, but that's actually a way to increase your impact on a given community, as opposed to saying, oh, I've got this like secret coveted trick here, or I've got this secret coveted thing and I'm not going to share it with anybody. That's actually what limits people over time.
Sure.
And you can look at any profession, sport, even podcasting, and you look at like who's doing incredibly well. And we'll just like look at Joe. Why is Joe doing so well? Well, part of it is because he's extremely talented and he works extremely hard and he has a lot of different kinds of guests on. But a lot of it is because he just gives so much. We're all just so like indebted to and love him so much because he's so generous, right? And the same thing is true in skateboarding. Jim comes up again. Like, why do we all love Jim so much? Because he's so generous, right? I think it was LeVar McBride. They call him Generous Jim. He told me, I think I thought his name was Generous Jim. And sure, he'd bring some product or he sent me a box, but that's not what it's really about, right? It's his spirit in it. And then there are other people, of course, too. So the more that you give to the next generation coming up and try and help them, the more your own prominence will grow. But more importantly, the more you're just paving the way. And that actually, if there's a secret weapon to success in any profession, that's it. It's just to give, because ultimately, like, you will always secure a nice home for yourself, regardless of age, if you're injured, if you're not injured, you want to be on the business side, or you actually want to be on the kind of performing side, whatever it is, you will always have a home in a community if you're giving.
Right.
Because people want to take care of you because you've taken care of them. And because it also just shows your love for the community as a whole. It's not about manipulating. It's the opposite. It's really about just putting more onto the land. It's like if you all share a farm space. This is actually economic theory called the tragedy of the commons, was that if everyone could put one sheep, then people are like, oh, sneak a sheep in there, And the idea was it would deteriorate the land. This was the amazing work of a guy named Garrett Harding years ago. But there's the opposite is true too. If every once in a while someone's just like, I'm not going to put anything here, or I'm going to tend to the land a little bit, then all of a sudden it's exponential.
Right.
And it's hard to register in the moment. I'm not just trying to do like feel good end of year holiday vibes here. If you look at who's succeeded, and then you look at, say, professional skateboarders who did really well, and then now everyone are kind of like, yeah, that guy. Think about their behavior. Just think, and everyone knows, like, there are multiple examples of both sides.
Sure.
So Jim's on the example of a giver, right? And then you think of tons of people who are just all about themselves. We all know who these people are. It's very inside ball, and we definitely won't name names. And they've done well, but they're kind of fizzing out.
Right.
And you know what? More importantly, in 10 years, they'll be irrelevant. And so this idea that, Michael Jordan was super competitive, but even there, like, his prominence is locked into history for good. He's amazing. But when you saw that documentary, if you watched that documentary, there was kind of a sadness to it too. Because it was like, he's kind of all alone. You see him now, and it's kind of like, and I'm just saying, I don't know, maybe they'll come after me with basketballs or something, but it's like, it was kind of sad.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
get the picture of a guy who was just like, yeah. And now there's all this love to share. Whereas you see people in a community that were amazing performers, maybe not as amazing as him, but like really put back into the game. And you're like, wow, like you could tell they're much happier people.
Right.
So the fight counts, but it's also like you gotta give some of what you discover.
For sure. And I think that's what I love about, you know, when you look at like the comedian side of stuff, it's like they're on their podcast, like they're uplifting each other, you know. It's like they're going here, they're going here, they're going here. I mean, like our whole goal here on the show is just to celebrate skateboarding.
Build everybody.
We don't, there's
Be
plenty
a
of,
tourist in our own industry.
there's plenty of things we don't like, you know. It's like, it's skateboarding, but we uplift, we want to celebrate the up and comers, the OGs, the legends, everybody in skateboarding.
Totally.
We've just been doing it for so long. It's just a part of our lives, our breaths, our everything, our beings.
Well, and it comes through. I mean, like, I'll be honest, like I love coming on this podcast because for me, it's like, listen, I had a very short run in skateboarding. I mean, and I definitely was never slayed to be one of the big guys. I mean, Steve Ruge told me that. He's like, he told me, he was a team manager at Spitfire. He's like, you'll never be one of the big guys. I remember just thinking,
True.
I told you this last time, I like want to go home and commit seppuku. I was like a kid, I was just like, you know?
Right.
And then I thought about it and I was like, you know, he's right. Like my body's not ready for it. Something's not like happening here, but I love it. So what do I do? So you just try and like stay close to that. And eventually I fell in love with other things. And he probably did me thank you, Steve, by the way, because he did me the biggest favor, pushing me towards a different career line that was clearly more meant for me. Clearly.
Right.
Totally.
So he didn't say it to be cruel, but you know, had I not gone that career line, yeah, I mean, I've mentioned him 50 times now already, but I think the reason I'm such a Jim Thiebaud fan is because that's a really good example of somebody. He's a really solid skateboarder, right? But I think in his words, he kind of realized like he could have a much bigger impact doing other things and still could enjoy skateboarding.
Exactly.
So finding your place in a community is key. And you guys really do celebrate this thing. And it's such a unique thing that you kind of have to, it has to kind of be in you before you can really understand.
For sure.
And it's kind of a if you know kind of thing. But what I love about it is that this show, you've brought on so many different kinds of people and personalities.
Right.
And look, you need the kind of you don't want bad actors in a, you don't want sociopaths in a given community, but you do need the like selfish ones too, so that they serve as a contrast point. Yeah. 'Cause you can't be all like hanging around just like kumbaya, right? You know, you gotta like, it pushes things forward.
For sure.
But I do think that like social media doesn't have any structure, to kind of bring it back to that. There's no structure, so it's this big amorphous blob called humanity typing away with their thumbs about how they feel, at any moment. And I love the communities online. Skateboarding's got a great one. Science is starting to develop one. Lex and I are kind of, there are others, but science and technology. Lex is really venturing into some hard territory now, right?
Yeah,
he had
totally.
Ye on there.
Yeah.
He's had Mark Zuckerberg on there. Yep. He's had people that like some people really love and some people really dislike. Mm-hmm. And so you gotta like anytime someone like that is going like nosed up to themselves up to the front, is really out there touching on hard topics. Look, I'm the first person that's going to be in his, because he has a Android phone for whatever reason, and he's on WhatsApp. I'm just like, it's awesome that you're pushing yourself. Like, right. And we're here. Like, so I love to see that. And I think that for anyone listening that doesn't feel like, well, great, but I don't have a big community, or whatever, you only really need one other person. And if you don't even have that person, try and orient towards the positive things in your community. Because there's always, like science, skateboarding, podcasting, there's always negative stuff,
Right.
That's just the way it is. But you have to, I swear I haven't been doing any psychedelics lately. Like, you got to look toward the light. Yeah. You got to get your sunlight in the morning, but like internally, it's always a gravitational pull towards negativity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Always.
What about psychedelics? I always hear, oh man, microdosing's a thing to do these days.
You want to go here?
I do.
This is major right now. A lot of people are indulging,
All right. So for the YouTube algorithm, this is medically grounded psychedelic use, meaning clinical trials. We're going to talk about that. Take this off.
By the way, Jim Thiebaud sent you boards. Did you set one up? Are you skating?
Oh yeah, no, 2 boards set up.
Yeah.
You
got 2?
2 boards set up.
What's a 2? What
the cruiser and skateboard?
One of them is they're both just real stamped, like a They're
But
just,
why do you have two though? Is one street and the other one's vert
Hot
with Jimmy
dog.
Wilkins?
One, two. Street and Bert. This guy, Street and Bert. Yeah, me and Jimmy just throwing down the like.
I know you've been hanging out with old Tony Hawk and Jimmy Wilkins.
Look out, Jimmy
you
Wilkins.
know.
I'm coming for your like, Jimmy Wilkins. What is it, the Lean 540? What was that?
So good.
Incredible.
That's a video game in real life.
Seriously.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Okay.
He sent me two. I set up two.
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I had a reason.
Have a quiver.
I had two.
I was so excited.
Yeah.
The quiver, two in
Yeah,
the quiver.
little quiver.
How many boards do you have set up?
One.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, maybe if I was a professional skateboarder, I could just go 1, 1, 1. But I got two. I got to hold on to them, protect them.
I just have I got right now I'm just on the curbs. So I got my curb board. I'm not planning on going into it's doing all this
He's
crap.
not going to video part anytime soon.
Let's talk about psychedelics. Okay.
Go ahead.
First of all, in my role as a professor, I want to be very clear. Psychedelics are still illegal
Right.
with an I. Okay. Meaning to possess or to sell can get you thrown in jail. So some areas of the country, some of them are decriminalized. Okay. Real quick tutorial. I promise this will be quick. True psychedelics are things like LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide, psilocybin, mescaline, peyote, ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a huge category there, right? And then not a psychedelic, but being explored for therapeutic purposes in clinical trials is MDMA, aka ecstasy, aka Molly.
Where does DMT fall into that?
DMT would fall more onto the psychedelics.
Okay.
And then there's things like Ibogaine, 22-hour psychedelic journey. Nothing happens with the eyes open. Close your eyes and you fall into a back catalog of your memories. But as a third person,
Where
where
can I
you can
find that?
rearrange things. It's actually being used quite extensively.
I don't want to find
I
that.
haven't read either.
It's actually being used quite extensively in clinical trials done partially through the laboratory at Stanford by a guy named Nolan Williams, who's a triple board certified neurologist, psychiatrist, with the veterans community, the special operations community. Still illegal, is done out of country typically, in conjunction with DMT on separate days. Very interesting work that is still evolving. Let's just kind of simplify the conversation to what most people are probably thinking about, which is psilocybin, aka magic mushrooms, and LSD, and then separate that from MDMA. All three of those compounds are being explored in studies at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, Stanford, UCSF, and in University College London for their therapeutic benefits. That's with a physician, part of a clinical trial, ruling out people that have psychosis or bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. If you have bipolar schizophrenia in first relative, or you have it, you do not want to be touching any of these compounds. That's a really, I don't say this like to protect myself. I say this to protect people from themselves. Okay. All right. With that said, the data are now very, very clear that people who do the appropriate clinical sessions with psilocybin or MDMA show tremendously positive outcomes for dealing with trauma and depression. Okay, let's talk about psilocybin first. You said microdosing.
Yep.
There is basically no evidence, nil to no evidence, that microdosing psilocybin can be beneficial, at least in clinical studies. I'm not saying that someone out there is going to just like hit me with their thumbs. I've been doing this. I feel so much. Okay, great. Like safety margins on psilocybin seem to be very high. Obviously, kids and people with psychosis shouldn't touch it. People younger than 25, you got to be careful. Brain's still developing. But the data show while microdosing is not beneficial, macrodosing for 1 or 2 sessions with a guide who's very skilled can be tremendously beneficial. And in fact, the data show, this is the work of Matthew Johnson's laboratory at Johns Hopkins, show that people that do 1 or 2 of these macrodose of psilocybin sessions, so this would be 2 to 5 grams, I believe, although double check the and it depends if you're taking in mushroom form or they're taking in pure psilocybin, which is the compound. So be smart here, folks.
And a microdose would be...
Microdose is tiny. It could be like, 20 to 50 milligrams per day. I think there are very little data supporting that, but these macro doses were just like where people are overwhelmed, kind of ego dissolution, hallucinations, and provided it's done in a safe environment with a clinician, long-lasting relief from otherwise near impossible depression, lasting years with very high safety margins. Very impressive.
Wow.
MDMA is mainly being explored through the so-called MAPS group. They're a group out of California. This is done legally as part of clinical trials. People can go to their MAPS website and sign up if they want. Mm-hmm. This is typically 1 or 2 or 3 sessions of, it's by body weight, but typically it's about 125 milligrams of pure MDMA. Mm-hmm. This is, again, done through a clinical trial with the potential of taking a booster of 75 milligrams a couple hours in. 1 or 2 or 3 of those sessions has been shown to alleviate PTSD for a long period of time. Pretty impressive.
Wow, yeah.
So the landscape is really changing, and you know, in comparison to a lot of treatments, these are relatively financially manageable. The big question now is pharma going to take over? Are people going to be doing this on their own? And again, you know, a lot of people don't know that they have a predisposition to psychosis. So that's a problem. If they're going to go take 5 grams of mushrooms and they have a predisposition to psychosis, it can end up with some permanent problems. There's also, as long as we're on the topic, like I did an episode on cannabis. Mm-hmm. I am not somebody who's against nor for cannabis. That actually can serve certain therapeutic roles. The issue is that people who are smoking very high THC concentration cannabis, especially young males, are going to predispose themselves to psychosis later.
How does one know if they have a psychosis?
You'd have a first relative that has it, or you've had one or more psychotic breaks of kind of loss of self in space and time, depressions lasting 2 weeks or more, followed by manic episodes. Manic episodes, I think, again, check with a clinician, but are defined as not sleeping for 4 or more nights.
Wow.
And being fine with that.
Okay.
Not being exhausted.
MAPS and the clinical studies.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think some type of MDMA has that effect on like a PTSD or depression?
Yeah. So I actually participated in a trial, done 3 sessions, and physicians were involved. I have to say, the compound MDMA is very unique in that it creates huge surges in dopamine, not unlike amphetamine or cocaine. 2 drugs I've never done, by the way, and never wish to do. We saw so many guys that we came up with, our community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Crash and burn. Really bad drugs, but it has some properties like those drugs, but it also includes the ability to release tons of serotonin, which makes it what's called an empathogen. So people feel a lot of empathy. They feel a lot of connection. Now, the danger of MDMA is that if you want to use it for therapeutic benefit and you don't have someone guiding you and you don't have a clinician there, first of all, if you have a predisposition, to a heart issue, you can imagine amphetamine might not be the best thing.
Right.
Second of all, the other issue is that you can sort of get attached to anything, to any stimulus. So you have to, that's why they do it with an eye mask, and you're kind of go into a thought train, you're thought to kind of, some people will set an intention beforehand, but really the most effective method is for people to just allow the medicine, as they say, to kind of reveal what's most important, and people will drop into a thought space around something that's they've been avoiding or that's really hard, typically a trauma. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind that traumas can be physical traumas, they can be emotional traumas. Traumas are different than bad experiences. The definition of a trauma is an experience or a collection of experiences that fundamentally changes the way that your brain works or that you think or make decisions so that it's maladaptive. So it can be witnessing something that was done to somebody else. I'm actually familiar with that. I without getting into it because there's no purpose in it, I saw some things and that were so disturbing. And I was fine afterwards. I was like, I'm good. I'm functional in my life. Like there's no major, but it was starting to become intrusive thought. So, and going into that 3rd session, I was like, okay, I'm not going to think about this. I want to have a good time, quote unquote. I'm not. And of course, what comes up. Right. And now it's really interesting. The contour of that internally, I can still remember it, but it's kind of fuzzy. The emotional thing, it feels like there's a buffer. It feels like it's sort of like touching something through a mattress. And it's like, cool, I think it's worked. So, and then the empathogen part is that people oftentimes will develop empathy for themselves or for somebody else. And so these are powerful compounds, not to be messed with, but they do have their utility. I would rather see people avoid microdosing and simply enroll in a good clinical trial. You can just go online and just say clinical trial, depression, psilocybin at any one of the universities or MAPS, and you can find these resources. And I know that some people are going down to Mexico and doing ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is different. Ayahuasca is kind of a darker journey, and you have very little control in there. There's also been some health concerns about people, in particular women, being taken advantage of while on ayahuasca journeys down in South America. So those are isolated cases, but when you're out of country, watch Locked Up Abroad. That's all you need to see. When you're out of country, things are just different.
Used to be my favorite show.
Yeah, that show I'd watch on the plane.
Yeah, I like
and
that.
I was just telling
On the plane.
I love that. On the plane. That's where it was. Were you like dumping out your bags?
In his suitcase.
Followed by Dahmer.
Man, I was on a train once from New York to DC, and all these federal officers got on with dogs. And the couple right in front of me, this guy and this girl, were so stressed. They're like, oh my God. And they kept making runs to their suitcases and dumping stuff out in the bathroom. I knew what they were doing. They were so stressed. And then we finally parked in DC and they locked down the whole thing. And I was like, all right, they're going to get it right here. Like, this is insane. And it turns out that the vice president at that time was on the train. And they just ushered him off the train, and that couple was sitting there. They had probably dumped God knows how many drugs off that train. They were so stressed.
We dumped all of our hash.
Yeah, exactly. But remember, like, all these things are illegal. So I know that, and I know skateboarders are all about they're like pseudo outlaws, and like, okay, I get it. But when you're talking about brain chemistry, you have to make sure what you're taking is what you think you're taking. Sure. You don't want to mix substances. You don't want to mix with other predisposed psychoses. You can imagine a lot of people that are depressed are probably taking antidepressants. So then you need a physician to kind of guide you through that. So enroll in a clinical trial. They're seeking people all the time. Nolan Williams' lab at Stanford is doing a lot of this stuff. There's some great labs, great physicians. The interesting thing about MDMA is there was this idea that it was neurotoxic, could kill your serotonin neurons. Turns out that's wrong. If it's the pure substance, turns out that's not an issue, is that people were mixing high levels of methamphetamine. So you need to know what you're getting. So I say that more as a cautionary note. But the studies on MDMA that really found that the safety margins are quite wide, as long as you don't fall into one of these general categories of at-risk people, were done. Do you know who they were done on? What's the one group of adults that would make a good research group? Because
veterans,
because they're not taking anything else. They're not drinking. They're not smoking. They're not
firefighters.
They're not
officers.
taking any other drugs and never have. Who would that be?
Sober people? I don't know.
Police officers. Mormons.
Most of the studies on MDMA that we know about safety margins were done on what they now call LDS, or Latter-day Saints, right? Mormon LDS. I never know what the proper language is, So it turns out that MDMA is not on the banned substance list for the Church of Latter-day Saints. So Mormons can do, as far as I understand, and at least in these studies up until a few years ago. So kind of interesting, right? I never would have thought of that, but I learned about that from a colleague of mine. So, and they found that people who've taken, many doses of MDMA, oftentimes can maintain healthy cognitive functioning, which is not to say go wild. The dosing in each session matters. And again, this is why you enroll in a clinical trial. But if you're dealing with chronic depression, talk therapy is key. And certainly antidepressants have their place. Doing those core 5 things that we talked about early on is key. But there is now an emerging role for this pharmacology that comes from plants. MDMA is a very synthetic compound, however. There's no place in nature where a compound creates huge increases in dopamine and serotonin. Those are very different molecules. Whereas psilocybin seems to be a naturally occurring pharmacologic experiment. LSD is a little bit different. Same general pharmacology as psilocybin, but it lasts much longer. It's a little bit more unwieldy. And then DMT, I've never tried, but has only been described as a rocket ship. That's very brief and kind of people doing toad. People also do toad. People, there's all sorts of stuff out there. But I think psilocybin and MDMA kind of represent the future of treatment for, I should say, pharmacology for depression and PTSD. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And we can provide some links in the show notes, so if people want to check out trials that are ongoing. it's real. Listen, I think it's really exciting times. 5 years ago, I never would have had this conversation on camera.
Right.
I would have been like, are you kidding me? But now this stuff is being researched at major universities.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of excitement about it. Again, not for kids, people with psychosis, but I think there's real potential there. And we're not talking about doing it 20 times.
Yeah,
We're talking about
say
doing it
abusing
once
it.
or
It's a
twice
session.
or three
and
times.
it's under supervision. You have a therapist with you. You're
You
checked
would
out
want
by a
that.
doctor.
You'd want that because the worst thing would be to suddenly start paying attention to the music and getting so involved in the music and the feeling in your body that then 4 hours goes by and it's like, well, what do you work out?
You didn't
It's
work
like,
out anything.
You didn't work out anything.
Right. Right.
Whereas if somebody is like, all right, I'm like pour into this hard narrative. And those hard narratives are different for different people.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, people you lost. Sometimes it's things, again, the kind of first person traumas. Sometimes it's things that you've observed in others. And sometimes it's just life. Like, Liz, I'm 47 years old, and I'll just tell you, like, you accumulate enough experiences and enough fatigue, and sooner or later it makes sense to, like, I'm not saying you need to do psychedelics to do this, but you need to get some perspective on where you're at in the arc of your life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very easy to get kind of in the soda straw view.
No doubt.
I was listening to Bill Burr, and he did mushrooms or psilocybin, whatever, but he said he found out doing it. He found out why he does comedy, why he likes comedy. And I was like, it's interesting to look at yourself outside of yourself.
Yeah,
Is that, you know what I mean? Like,
it's beautiful. I mean, I think that I say beautiful because there is something incredible to somebody being able to get into one of these highly unusual states safely and gain a reflection that gives them a deeper sense of meaning.
yeah.
Right. And I think, I mean, there's a lot of places we could go with this. I think that if you were to imagine relatively low cost, 1 or 2 or 3 session type treatments, these are starting to look like the appropriate thing. And I say this because, look, I've done a lot of therapy in my life. I won't lie. I've been doing therapy a really long time. I've benefited tremendously. I've managed to get insurance to cover it at times. Sometimes I've had to, I actually used to write columns for Thrasher while I was a postdoc to make extra money so I could pay my therapy bills.
Wow.
Because at the time I was making very little money as a postdoc. So I've done the work, and I enjoyed writing for Thrasher.
Sure.
Of course, and it came with certain perks too, but but look, I understand, like, a lot of therapists also aren't that effective. I was very lucky that I was working with somebody that I really felt like I was gaining ground and understanding. Also at the time, I was completely isolated from skateboarding. I felt very isolated in my science world. I felt very isolated. I needed somebody there, right? At different stages of life, you need different things. And a lot of people just don't have access to really good treatment. And so I think it's really exciting times. I mean, what's more important than being relatively content in your own skin and feeling like you can do those core 5 things, right? I mean, I don't want to make too much of them, but they are really key. Again, it's like sunlight, nutrition, movement, sleep, social connection.
Right.
To be able to feel energized and well enough to pursue the things that make you feel even better, to say nothing of profession, ice baths, like all the other stuff that goes, that you can add on top of that. I think, I believe it's everybody's natural right to feel pretty good.
Totally.
And since you can't pick your parents, can't pick your upbringing, at some point you got to intervene in yourself. And so we're just talking about one set of tools to do that.
And if you have the means or the option to do something, I think a lot of people will jump at that because maybe they feel trapped or this isn't working, or, if you're stuck in a corner, you'll almost do anything to get out of that. If you've been stuck in that corner for years or, however long.
Yeah. And, we don't want to make it dark, but like, for instance, I have a number of friends in the special operations community. I mean, they've had not a rash, but they've had enough of suicides in that community. People that I'm told you would never imagine would do that. There's a great group called Veteran Solutions that's run by a couple. He's a former Tier 1 SEAL team operator. His name is Marcus Capone and his wife Amber. They have Veteran Solutions. They are part of this initiative to bring vets down to Mexico, do these psychedelics. They're then mainly Ibogaine and DMT. And then their brains are being studied in their bodies while they're alive in Nolan's lab at Stanford. So, and they're seeing tremendous progress from this. And that only came after a bunch of people in their community had committed suicide. Wow. And, and so I see that as one kind of narrow slice of what you'd love to see in the world, because every once in a while, all too often lately, you just see it, not just in military, you see it. I don't know, in skateboarding right now, it's been quiet for a bit, right? Thank goodness, knock on wood, right? I'm superstitious. But it feels like, there's a lot of suffering out there. And then you think about the general landscape out there where people don't have a community like the veterans community or skateboarding or podcasters, like, can't just call up Lex or whatever. And people are isolated, like you said, they're lonely. So I do think that these resources are going to become more and more important.
Amazing. I love it. I love that they're actually out there doing the research and they're being allowed to do this. Because it's benefiting and helping so many people.
Yeah, well, in the 60s and 70s, the psychedelic movement and the meditation movement were very closely tied. And just as a brief, I'm obsessed with history of medical history because you can avoid mistakes by looking into the past. And what you found is that all the people who were really into psychedelics and meditation, they all lost their jobs at Stanford, at Harvard, because they were all just telling everyone to take LSD, which turned out to be a bad idea legally and a bad idea because you were getting people who were psychotic, triggering their psychosis. Yeah. So they took the potential. It was actually quite selfish of these so-called professors, right? Because they took something potentially useful and they were just too lazy to put it through the proper channels. And I know I'll get some pushback and they'll be like, oh, the system would have slowed it down. Actually, had they done clinical trials back then, we would be well into the acceptance of this now. So thank goodness for all the researchers who are like, whoa, let's slow it down. Let's not just tell everybody to do this. Let's figure it out. Figure out the safety margins. Who should, who shouldn't, who can, how much, what dose. Figure this out. Right. And then make this possible for everybody. What's interesting is meditation made it through the chute. No one tells you don't meditate, you'll lose your mind. But in the 70s and 80s and 90s, it was thought that was all like magic carpet woo-woo stuff. But now, we know, for instance, I'll just use this as an opportunity. Meditation, where you sit and you focus on something for 5 or 10 minutes, is very good at improving your focus. If you're somebody with ADHD, that's a great tool. And it's hard, but that refocusing is really great to do. 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day even. But it is not a great tool for solving problems. Okay? For solving a problem or rewiring your brain to be less fearful, eliminate insomnia, happier. Hypnosis is very powerful. And hypnosis, there's a great app out there. It has a free trial on it, so feel comfortable recommending, called Reverie, Reveri, the Reverie app. If you have issues with insomnia or you're trying to work through a problem, it's about 10 or 15 minutes to do these hypnosis scripts. These are hypnosis scripts. It's self-hypnosis. And these were developed by my colleague, David Spiegel, who's the associate chair of psychiatry at Stanford. So this is legitimate work. And then if you're somebody who's just really fatigued and run down, then I recommend doing what's called NSDR, which is non-sleep deep rest, or yoga nidra, which is where you just lie there and listen to a script for about 10 to 30 minutes at a time, anywhere from 1 to 7 times per week. And if you want to find some good NSDR scripts, there's one, humility aside, I read it. It's called, just put my name, Huberman, and NSDR into YouTube, and you can access that free. Oh, wow. So remember, meditation is for improving focus. Hypnosis, self-hypnosis, is for solving a particular problem. And NSDR, aka Yoga Nidra, is for replenishing energy. It's been shown that after about 10 to 30 minutes of NSDR, your dopamine levels rise in the brain to a point where you're ready for action again. It can actually help you replace sleep that you're not getting. Oh, okay. So anyway, just as an aside, because I think people go, meditation is just one thing. It's like, no, those are very, very different things.
Sounds like the last one, NSDR.
Yeah, non-sleep deep rest.
It's like a power nap.
It is.
Technically, right?
It is. And it also teaches you how to deliberately go into states of deep relaxation in a way that lets you get better at falling asleep if you have issues with sleep.
Yeah.
So I do it every day. I did one this morning. I woke up and it was weird. We went to sleep last night. I don't know what happened. My girlfriend and I fell asleep 6:30 p.m. And then we woke up at 10 and she went right back to sleep. And I was up until 1. And so then this morning I woke up at 6 and I was feeling kind of off. That's very unusual for me. Yeah. Normally I go to bed around 10. And so I woke up and I did a 10-minute NSDR, popped out of that feeling like, wow, I feel great. And that's...
Because I'm a big nap taker.
What's that?
I'm a big nap taker.
Yeah.
So that
naps
could help.
Are tremendously good for you.
Are they?
As long as they don't interfere with your nighttime sleep. Because some people, they can't do it or else they can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
Right here.
But it
That's
sounds
you?
like the
Yeah.
I can't take a
But
nap
Chris-
every day. I can't relax myself enough to like just calm myself to take a nap. And
Okay.
I feel like if I do 15 minutes or 20 minutes, I get up and I'm like, dude, I'm more tired now.
Yeah.
But
You know?
how many hours a day do you spend kind of moving around, skateboarding, doing your thing?
Well, I don't skate every day, that's for sure.
How many days a week do you skateboard? I'm an interview.
Maybe one day a week, if that.
Is that because
We
of
need
time or
that.
just,
That's just because I'm not really doing it how I used to do it. Yeah.
you miss how you used to do it?
Of course. Yeah. I wish I could spend more time
Oh,
skating.
but you
for
still
sure.
kill it out there.
I mean, I've
I've
look.
seen.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, I mean, I wish I could spend more time on it, but I just mentally I have to put myself in and get into that zone. You know what I mean? I have this, and then just working on numerous projects, and then my son. It's just like so many things that
Yeah.
get caught up. So, but I do want to. That's what I'm talking about going into next year. I'm going to have some, some changes. I want to skate more. I want to do some things that are going to be
Put it on the
more.
calendar.
Yeah, pull it on the calendar right now. That's so odd. You have to do that now.
We have a series coming out on our podcast is all about fitness. This guy, Andy Galpin, is like one on endurance, one on strength, anyway, a bunch of stuff. And he has this great concept that's more related to fitness, but it came to mind as you were saying that like, I'm very scripted about my schedule. So like between 7 and 9, I'm like working out. I don't do the full 2 hours, but then 9 to 12, I'm on the podcast, prepping or podcasting. Noon to 1, I eat lunch, take a 10-minute NSDR, and then it's like back into podcast stuff or lab stuff. He has this concept, which is, because I said I have all that structure, but there are days when like things will kind of bleed over and then it just doesn't happen. And he has this thing that he does with his athletes, which I think is really smart, which is you like one day, for one segment of your day, you have a drop everything and blank at a certain time. So like no matter what time it is, no matter where you are, it's like just like drop everything and skate, at that time each day. Even if it's, where do you usually skate? You're out in the street or you?
Yeah, I try to go over like to Paul's Park or just, in my driveway, just to kind of just get my body going type of deal.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that like if I get into the cold shower ice bath in the morning, even for a minute, there's a higher probability I'm going to do it again in the afternoon. This is this weird thing, right? It's almost like if you push to the car in the morning on your skateboard, there's like a higher probability you'll get onto it in the afternoon. There's like that. It's those walls that we were talking about.
Right.
So 2023, you're skateboarding
We're gonna
3 days a week.
Be out there a lot more. That's for
Drop
sure.
everything and skate.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically.
Yeah. But there's also something else I'm working on, so it's motivating me to skate.
Yeah, you're working on in skateboarding.
Yeah, with a company called Thank You with Tori Pudwell.
Sounds like I remember him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like it's cryptic. You can't tell us.
No, I mean, he's dropping a special board for me, and I'm honored that they're doing that. So
That's
I'm
so
definitely
great.
motivating me to like get out and skate. You know what I'm
Exclusive.
saying? Yeah.
When
Here it
you
is.
show-
You
You
heard
might
it
get
here
your pro
first.
party, dude.
What's that?
This
He might
guy.
get his pro party, dude.
Goodness, man. They're gonna beat.
Can I
this.
get an invite?
Of course.
Really?
Yeah.
If that does happen, yes, 1,000%.
We're having it at the Olive Garden.
Yeah.
Best place ever, dude. We just keep rolling with all these dudes. It's the best.
That's what we do.
We love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are these, the things that we used to be good at, oftentimes can be, that sometimes can be the barrier because you're comparing, like it's like this, comparison to the previous time. But,
Right.
But it should all be forward looking if you think about it.
Of course. No, I'm not.
Because how old are you?
I'm 45, about to be 46.
Well, I guarantee you're skateboarding better than 99.9% of 45-years. Like,
I
so it's
mean,
all
for
between
sure.
you and you.
For sure.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, but I get it. I mean, I think that I actually try and take more things off my plate each year. I don't do these New Year's resolutions. Recently, a bunch of opportunities came through on the business side related to the podcast, and this is the way I look at all of it. I pick the 3 things I love to do the most, which is podcast. I love working out. I really do. And then spending time with the people that I care about. And I think anytime someone offers me something like to do for money, I think you're trying to pay me to not do those things.
Yeah.
Like how much do you have to pay me to not do that?
Yeah.
So you already know I have no price except like inheriting Jimmy Wilkins' skateboard skills for podcasting. And the second thing is like there's no amount of money you can pay me to stop like working out and running because I love that. Like no amount of money. And so I think if you look at skateboarding, like how much money do I have to pay you to quit and never skateboard again?
Yeah, be rough. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah.
So then
I couldn't make that decision.
But
Yeah,
that's
but
right. So that's
$1 million.
these things. Mental exercises do it for me because it's like, well, then I know what I really care about.
right. True.
Because it's like with kids, no one will be like, how much money do you have to never spend time with your kid again, right?
Right.
There's no amount of money,
Right.
and like it's just pure love.
True.
Yeah. So I think
That's a good way to kind of break it down in a
But if you
sense
could say
too,
like
for
Jimmy
sure.
Wilkins,
That's where it's especially for people, it's hard to say no. That's where I think it becomes really valuable. You go like, you're actually asking me to not do the thing I want to do. Then it becomes very easy to say no. Sometimes I'll tell people, I'll be like, you're asking to pay me or to spend time on something, which takes me away from the reason that you're asking me to do it in the first place.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
It's perspective right there.
I think as we get older, we just want to be able to continue to skate at whatever level we can skate at. You know, that's why Athletic Greens is really good. You know what I mean? Like
Back it.
our community really, as you get older, you just want to, that's all you want to do.
our
If I
skateboarders
could-
getting more into health. By the way, I do.
Oh, for sure.
I
I
always
think
say it on
so.
my podcast. I've been taking Athletic Greens since 2012, and it's true.
Yeah.
It's like I just feel better.
Right.
Same.
Yeah,
Right.
I just absolutely feel better. It's a great. It's just I think you need all those micronutrients, and it's very hard to get it from food. And yeah,
No, it's good.
I think it's
No, that's great. That's a great product, really. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I've been using it probably for about a year now, and like, I've been talking about it highly. You know, I really truly believe that I'm getting a value of it, you know, and I'm feeling it.
9 Club at checkout.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
9 Club at checkout.
But that's the thing. That's the thing that was natural for me to say that because I truly believe that. You know what I mean? So it's not, oh, we're getting paid for that. Like, no, this shit actually works
Yeah.
for me.
Right. Right.
Yeah, everyone who starts taking it that I know just feels better. You just feel better.
Right.
Digestion's better, microbiome's better. I think it's that like covering bases kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially like if I travel, I'll take a bunch of it. Blayback's really into that stuff.
Right.
He rips through that stuff nonstop. He's gotten super healthy. You know that? Now
Yeah.
he started lifting
Yeah,
weights.
yeah, yeah. Wow.
Ooh,
Yeah,
buff
but he's like
Playback?
Midwest strong. It's kind of scary because he had been. Remember, he dropped 60 pounds, quit
Yep,
drinking,
yep.
quit smoking weed. He's on the assault bike every morning, doing his thing.
someone's
With
chasing
his
him with a needle.
glasses, you know. And then he started. I was like, you should start doing the weight training. Upper body one day, take a day off. Lower body the next day, and still doing the biking stuff. He's a beast.
Wow.
Sure he
He's
is
so
gnarly.
strong. He's like legitimately strong. Just I think some people are just naturally just like really strong.
Until
And,
he tapped in. Now he's seeing the results. It's like insane.
Oh yeah, and his kid too, because his kid used to lift weights. His kid's a skateboard too, and then he's like watching his dad get all gnarly. So it's cool. Like it's fun to see when people take good care of themselves because
For sure.
so much. This is something I learned from Jocko. Really, is that getting in movement gives you energy. That it's not all about food energy. That physical movement gives you energy.
Yeah.
And we all kind of know that, but we tend to think of like, oh, you need to eat. And of course you need to nourish, but there's really something to physical movement. And it's the catecholamines. When you're in physical movement, adrenaline and dopamine go up, maybe not to the same degree they would in an ice bath or a cold shower, but then you have sort of a higher probability or likely, just kind of willingness to move. When you sit around a lot, it becomes easier to sit around a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I can't sit like down for like hours like this at all. Like I have to like constantly be moving around.
This is hell for you.
That's
I know,
why. That's why you
sometimes-
stopped
The
and
9
left a
Club
little
is
bit
your
ago.
hell.
No, I gotta go to the bathroom too.
He left, went, skated curbs, came back.
But like having a
shower.
like, I'll have a conversation with Chris, whatever. I'll just be pacing and pacing and
Yeah.
pacing. Like I just can't sit still.
I'm embarrassed to say that the gift I gave myself for Christmas is like this. And again, it's not promotional. In fact, I'm still waiting for it to arrive, and I pay retail like everybody else. But there's this thing that Rogue Fitness makes called I think it's called the fidget bar. I have a standing desk, and it's like a little swinging like arm that you
Amazing.
put your foot on, and and it keeps me like
Keeps you moving.
able to keep moving because
This little thing right here.
that thing, I love that thing. I don't even own it yet, and I love it. I think it's the greatest invention. And now I bet a bunch of people watch this and be like, "You moron! You paid $100 for that. You could make that." But that would be time, and then I wouldn't be doing something else because I'm always typing or reading or learning for the podcast. So how cool is that thing?
Rod's gonna get one
I
next
was gonna
week.
say, dude,
They're gonna shoot a sequence.
you got to do a podcast with Rob Dyrdek. I'm not sure if you
So
guys
he
sat down. I'm
reached
sure
out
he reached
after
out.
coming on here
Dude.
Okay.
because he was like. He had watched a few episodes and he was like, I had no idea you were a skateboarder.
Right.
What's funny is that Rob, I remember when he showed up for Back to the City when skateboarding Embarcadero.
Yeah.
And we let him live, and he lived, and he's thrived, obviously.
Yeah.
They were only really hard on a few people. Like what? Anyway, we won't go into that. History is less interesting than the future. So, but yeah, man, they were hard on some pro skateboarders.
For sure.
That would come
We always
through.
heard that Jamie Thomas got ripped off.
Yeah, I don't know
pretty
how
hard.
that got started, but I think it's because he showed up and probably was just killing
it. Yeah.
I think
Yeah, he showed up at EMB. He was living,
And
he was sleeping there.
there.
Yeah, and really
So
like
they must have brought him into the fold at some point.
Oh, maybe at some point, but I think he had to pay his dues.
he did.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Listen, it was a tight crew there.
Yeah.
They're going to give hell to anybody that's just
Yeah.
showing up randomly.
It was a tight crew, and I learned it really depended on the time of day you showed up, whether or not people have been drinking, how much they had been drinking. You kind of learn to calibrate this stuff. And like I said last time, the welcome committee, it's
Yeah.
Carl, Nick, and
James Couch.
Sam.
Yeah.
Like if they brought you in, kind of everyone just kind of let you. But you also had to be smart. I mean, you couldn't be stupid about it. You couldn't just like roll up and just start looking for daps. You
sure.
had to like actually skateboard. You couldn't also just post up with everybody else. I saw that happen a few times. If you did that, Kelch would nose bonk your head. Like he legitimately I saw him nose bonk someone's head. It was terrible. but he was like, welcome.
Yeah.
There you go. You don't know where you're at.
I read this Chromeball interview with Sot DeLong. Do you remember him? Yeah. So Sot, he was one of my favorite skaters growing up, and his part in Welcome to Hell is amazing. But he was just talking about how he was on the side part. It's like, yeah, we didn't hang with everyone that was like the cool kids. Yeah, it was like literally in the corner. So I was like, sounded like high school.
Yeah.
Like, cliques everywhere, and like, the football players are over there. And
and there were some crazy firecracker antics there. Do you remember that?
Just before my time, but like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like there were some like, yeah, it was, I don't want to get anyone in trouble. It was wild, but that was what was fun too. And then everyone would blast over to Hubba and watch someone try something,
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all your stuff would get stolen.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, there was, not by me, but yeah, it was wild. And I think also the culture there was crazy, but the skateboarding was amazing. And I think, and those guys worked really hard to keep it in and to maintain it as theirs, and that took work,
Yeah.
Also, those blocks were like this.
Yeah,
they weren't corners.
They were rounded.
They were like, and they were chunks.
Not everybody could skate those. It was definitely,
Yeah.
you
They
had to
weren't
put some
waxed
time in.
up
You had to
either.
put some time in.
Yeah.
And don't try to just, go over there and wax it yourself. You would definitely get...
What I liked about Embarcadero was that, at that time, there were a lot of older pros that would show up there, and they got no respect. Like, you couldn't just show up because you were good someplace else or known someplace else. That was the point, really. And just be like, oh, this is my home. And like, no, this is not your home. And I think that's what made it unique, is that people weren't there to see pro skate. They were there to skateboard. And so they protected it for themselves. And it was a beautiful thing. I also remember when the freeways were still up, before they pancaked in the earthquake.
That's right.
So that wasn't that long before it really took off, because that was 89 quake.
Sure.
So we started going there just prior to that. It was good. And now, there's kids on the blocks across the street, right? As I see them right in the...
Yeah, they're still skating.
Pier 7? Pier 7. They revamped a lot of
spots there's
out
Pier
there.
7, but then there's like something just like this island in the middle of the road, right?
Oh yeah, the
behind there.
island. Yeah, it's like they skate flat ground there, and they got some like a lead, and
There's like a monument there.
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a good meetup spot for sure.
I know you got two boards. What if you're going to go skate? Are you just skating flat ground? Are you skating a ledge, a curb? Like, what's your curb cut?
It's inevitable, isn't it? Yeah, it's sooner.
let's say
Sure.
skate.
Yeah, I'm my driveway in the street out there has some can just push around there, but then there are a couple curves that there might have been a slappy in 2022.
Maybe
front side and
more.
backside slappy.
Let's get a couple more in 2023.
Drop it on the ground.
Yeah, I think having come on this podcast before and just kind of been in touch with skateboarders and social media, there have been some calls for some let's see if you actually can ride a skateboard.
No, people
I'm pretty comfy on it. Like, I'll be honest, if I step on a skateboard again, I'm comfortable.
Sure.
But am I ready to start shooting apart? Like, no, I don't.
No, it's not about that. It's just about skating and having fun and being out there and feeling it.
I've been teaching some kids how to ride.
Okay.
And so that's been fun. Yeah, I love it. Like it's funny how I'll push out to so I always push out to the mailbox.
Okay.
And then ride back. And then there's a big hill there, and every once in a while I'll like go down the hill for a bit. I'm just like,
Cruising.
just cruising. But yeah, it's not like I'm it's not like I'm longboarding. I'm like, I'll hit a few slappies. It feels so good. It just feels so good.
But that's the point of skating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just the feeling. It doesn't matter if you're pushing down the street, if you're doing a tray flip, crooked grind, nollie flip out. Like it's skating.
It just feels so good.
It feels great.
It feels so good. And then when we went and saw Jimmy down there, I actually didn't take the opportunity, but I wanted to pump around on that thing.
You should have.
That big masonite ramp looks so.
You should have stopped the whole session
perfect.
and been like, "Yo, let me get a."
Thing's big. That thing is big.
That thing was on the Boom Boom Huck Jam.
Yeah, that thing is really big.
You drop in?
No, but maybe I should just call it 2023.
There we go.
Drop in.
I mean, I think dropping in, you're either going to live or you're going to die. So you might as well. Yeah, I mean, I think if I can get some time pumping around on there, then I think I'd be comfortable enough to drop in.
For sure.
I mean, I just would I'd probably sit down so low in it that I'd end up like knees up near my eyes, coming in.
Made it.
Because I know better than to try and straight leg it.
Oh yeah, that's a worry kid. That's a bad idea.
I feel like that's what it feels like to jump out of an airplane, is to drop it on a vert ramp. I swear, like I've never jumped out of an airplane, but I dropped in on a 13 foot. And I was like, oh, here it is. Like you just lose all you just like everything goes. You're like, all right, I'm going.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that's what
it's all or none.
Yeah.
It's all or none. I mean, up until 2010, I was going to this little park over in Menlo Park called Burgess Park on my lunch hour at Stanford when I was a postdoc. Hit a few frontside grinds.
Sick.
Little few 50-50s. This is like little stuff. Like, there's one big wall there, and like, yeah, if we start talking about it enough, I'll start doing it more.
Yeah,
Gotta get
there
out
we go.
there.
Yeah, I think also I don't think you can really call yourself a skateboarder and never step on it. Maybe that's why Jim sent me the gear.
Right. He's like, you got to get on this. Yeah. But I mean, I guess my question is like, if you had one thing, would you prefer like a slappy or a little bowl to skate or a quarter pipe, or what would be like your go-to?
Transition's fun, but I think the best feeling in the world is like just a slappy.
Little grinder.
Yeah. I think, truck's on. Like, I'm not... Frontside grind in a pool's fun. I can do it usually. I think it with a half day to get back in.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, backyard pool. I don't know, but like pool, like park pool. Park pool. Yeah. But with vert.
Yeah. Sure.
Like not a ton of it.
Right.
But yeah, that feels really good. There's something about like the mini ramp thing that always feels like I'm gonna get hurt. I don't. What is it with mini ramps? I feel like
back and forth too
Just
quick.
the whole back and forth, like on a swing set.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like a natural. I mean, I can ride one, but it just doesn't feel right. I don't know, but yeah, I think.
So people have been asking for evidence.
All right, all right. 2023, I'll put up some video of either a frontside grind in a pool.
Okay.
Frontside grind in a pool.
Do a kickflip.
My blunt game's pretty good.
A blunt.
Yeah, not, but just straight up and straight back.
Yeah.
Nose blunt.
Should we go to the skate park after this?
Not been out there. Is it good? That's the one with the bumps, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
With the tree?
Yep.
It's okay. You should come skate the slappy curbs with us one day.
Okay.
Yeah. Come on down, skate.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be fun. I've been trying to slim down a little bit. I was just lifting weights during the pandemic, just eating and lifting weights. I got a little heavy, which I'm not really, it doesn't feel right. I like to be able to move. So I've been running a little bit more, a little bit of skateboarding.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
If we're going to do that, then we got to bring Mike out.
Well, whoever wants to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come. Let's
always
go
a pleasure
skate.
seeing Mike.
Get some
He's
photos.
Get Mike and Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think, and Chris and Martin. Yeah. Those guys, I think they skate pretty often. I don't know about Mike, if he's up to it. He's busy. Mike's doing our thing for the Huberman Lab podcast. He's got a family. He's still doing a bunch for skateboarding brands, I think.
He's still over at DC, isn't he?
I would assume so.
I think skateboarding, once it's in your blood, it's in your blood.
Yeah, 100%.
The surfing thing never got to me, even though I lived near the ocean.
either.
You?
Yeah.
Me either.
No. I mean, I did surf
tried
when
it
I was
once.
younger.
Did
and
you?
then I realized because I couldn't control the waves, obviously. And I'd like that my skateboard was just me. I could do it right here. I could do it out front of my driveway. I didn't have to go to the beach to go surf.
Right.
Totally.
So I just thought that was
Yeah. I was a big
skateboarding is for me.
boogie boarder when I was little.
Oh, yeah?
I just walked down to the ocean,
Right.
buggy board. It's the cold wasn't my thing. That's why I'm kind of
Same.
dreading these ice showers.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. The more you hate it, the more you stand to get out of it in a short amount of time. This is the thing, like once you become cold adapted and you're like totally comfortable with it, the adrenaline release is lessened. You want that kind of like, the more it sucks, the more you don't want to do it, the more you stand to get a huge benefit from very short time doing it.
Wow.
There are very few things in life like that.
What about I take a nice hot shower. I turn it off. I get out and I open the door and I get a little cold. And then I got my towel
That's the first
and
wall.
I dry off.
That's the first wall. That first wall, when you feel it and you're like, this morning I sat in the sauna for like 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I was like, I got out and I looked at the cold plunge and I was like, I don't want to do it. And then I remember like those cartoons with like the angel and devil. And then I remember Rogan saying he was going to do 3 minutes a morning. And I was like, all right. So I like teed up this one song on my phone.
Credence?
No, it's a really rare Rancid song. I'm a huge Rancid fan.
Okay.
Huge Tim Armstrong fan. It's called Sick Sick World. Like very few people know it. It's a minute and 17 seconds. I only know that because I looked this morning. I'm like, I got in there. I'm like, I'm just going to like listen
One
to this.
song. There it
It's
is.
super fast. It's a great song. And if you like that genre of music, which I do, and just got in there, got out and was like, that feels amazing. And like, this is the only caffeine I've had all day. And granted, these things are a kick, but the effects are super long lasting.
Is there a danger to an ice plunge, an ice bath? If you're in there too long, it's too cold.
The only danger to cold water, deliberate cold exposure, is not doing it. No, I'm just
Really?
kidding. I'm just kidding. No. If you get very cold, if you fall through the lake in winter, you can have a heart attack.
Totally,
Right? So I don't want anyone to harm themselves.
No.
Sorry, you set me up for that one.
But I mean, like,
The,
do your muscles, like, I've heard of people, didn't somebody, I think it was Rogan said something, he had a hard time getting out of an ice
I mean, you
bath
don't
one
want to
time?
go 10 minutes in there the first time
Okay.
you do it.
Yeah.
But I only have seen that once. My ex-girlfriend's a redhead, super high pain threshold. Wim Hof came out to teach us how to do ice baths.
Wow.
And she got in there just chilling 10 minutes. And I was like,
10
that was
minutes?
crazy. Yeah, she's just super high threshold for that.
Fiery.
But we're talking normal is like
Normal
1 minute,
people.
2, 3 minutes.
Typical person,
Yeah,
rather.
typical.
A minute to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Where you're just like, I don't want to do this. You know, honestly, this is sincere offer. We should just get Mike, Chris, Martin, the rest of the HLP. We'll do a 9 Club Huberman Lab podcast.
Okay.
Sauna, cold plunge.
Okay.
By the end of that, you'll want one. You'll just be like, and we'll get you one. We'll figure it out. Mike, I put one in Mike's yard. I gifted him one, a cold plunge.
Amazing.
And a sauna.
What
That
day
was
worked for you?
as a thank you for coming on board the HLP.
Wow.
Just because he's layback.
Can you do ice plunge multiple times a day or you just want to do them once?
I mean, I did it this morning. My Tuesdays, I always do 3 rounds, as I said, of sauna, cold. And so I don't count what I did this morning as that. That's just one day a week because I don't have the hours every day to do that.
We're talking throughout the day.
You can.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
My friend Toby Moores, who he's a punk rocker. He's a singer for a band called H2O. One of these like vegan straight edge guys. He's got tons of energy. And he's got a great podcast called One Life, One Chance, which is a music podcast. They cover some other stuff too. And I turned him on to ice baths. He's like in there all the time. He's a New Yorker. I mean, he's from Boston. He's like New Yorker. He's like, yo, can you be in the ice bath too much? I'm like, how much are you doing? He's like 20 minutes at a time. I was like, you should just ease up.
Oh, chill,
Ease
buddy.
up. But that's him. He's got
Okay.
he's like super wiry.
Wow.
He's got tattoos. Like no spot on him isn't tattooed from what I understand.
Huh.
Yeah. He's just tattoos. So that tells you something right there. Extreme
He likes
dude.
the pain.
Well, Nigel
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah, it seems like he's pretty
is that?
filled up for sure.
Yeah.
There's
People
something in there. Usually you only see that with addicts. I'm not calling Nigel an addict. I'm just saying that normally, like if you ever see people when they get out of rehab
Yeah.
and they stay sober, like a year later, they're just like
Looking
covered.
good.
It's, I think it's just, it's like potato chips. They can't just have just one.
So-
But I think, so Toby is really aggro on that. But I think most people, people learn to love the feeling afterward. It's not about the feeling you have going in or during. It's the feeling afterward. If you enjoy it while you're in it, fine, but like that's not the point.
That is not going to be me.
Exactly.
That's
It's
definitely
not
not gonna be
sex.
me.
You're not
Right.
supposed to enjoy it before, during, and after.
Right.
You're
This
supposed
is
to
an
enjoy
after.
it after.
Okay.
It's
I'm gonna-
like very few things in life, you know, because skateboarding, you love it while you're doing it, and after, if it goes well,
Right.
you know, working out, like I love working out during and after. Some people think about exercise like, I like how I feel after. I'm like, I like how I feel during and after.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things in life. The way the biology works is the same center in the brain that controls pleasure controls pain, truly. So if you push on that discomfort, it's like a seesaw. I'm borrowing the analogy from my colleague Anna Lemke. She wrote an amazing book called Dopamine Nation at Stanford. So you push down on that discomfort, but it's safe discomfort. And then when you come out of it, that dopamine and that pleasure arc just goes going and going and going. It's really something special.
Can that benefit your immune system and all that
Absolutely.
stuff? Yeah.
Absolutely. I wouldn't do it too late at night, not because of immune system, but it can kind of wake you up.
Yeah.
If you're,
I could
but
see
I
that.
always say if you're very, very tired, like you've just been working and skating or just super busy, you do an ice bath at night, you'll still sleep like a baby.
Sure.
It's just, in general, you kind of want to do it during the early days.
during the early days.
But we really should do a HLP 9 club
Okay.
gathering because we're not that far from here.
HLP TNC
Let's pick a date.
Yeah.
X collab.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It'd be fun, and Mike and the whole team, and
Let's go.
It
Let's
would get
do it.
everybody going. And the sauna, yeah, we can all just like sweat and then get into that thing.
Okay.
Back and forth, back and forth. And by the end, you'll be like, I get it. Chris has
Right.
one too now.
Oh wow.
Chris Ray has one too.
Let's go. Let's really quickly. Let's go over what we talked about before. The 5 things that you're talking
pillars?
about. The 5 pillars.
Okay.
Because I feel like you're really adamant about that. You post about
Yeah,
that all the
I mean-
time. Like it's a really, and they're easy to do. It's all mostly all free except for the nutrition part, right?
Yeah, and you got to eat sooner or later.
Sure.
And we could talk about fasting too if you want, but we've done episodes on that. Yeah, I like this idea of a 5 kind of foundational pillars. The way to think of it maybe is as what you're trying to do is give your system buoyancy,
Right.
right? Like you want to have buoyancy so that when other stuff hits, you're resilient. And that could be bacterial infection, viral infection, argument with your spouse, bad day, good day, whatever.
Okay.
You want buoyancy. There's no replacement for these 5 things. And I could say in no particular order, but let's just say, let's start with one that everyone needs to get sufficient amount of quality sleep most nights.
8 hours.
Some
6
people
hours?
need 5. Most people need between 6 and 8. Teenagers, young kids, let them sleep as much as they want.
Here's the thing. I'm a night owl. I love to. I go
okay.
to bed later.
It's okay. Whenever allows you to feel functional for your life.
Okay.
Okay. And that sometimes changes over time.
Sure.
Okay. So for me, I need about 7 hours a night. I can get by on 6, 8, sometimes great. More than 8, I start feeling groggy. So try and get that most nights of your life. Nobody's perfect.
Okay.
Nobody's perfect and things happen.
Sleep,
Okay?
very important.
Sleep is very important. Try and make sure you're getting sleep. If you wake up in the middle of the night, use Reverie or NSDR or some other tool to help you get back to sleep. And we have a sleep toolkit at hubermanlab.com, completely zero cost. You don't have to sign up. You can just download it. It has all the stuff to help you optimize sleep.
Okay.
Okay. Sleep is number 1. Number 2, it is important to get movement, like about it, and ideally an hour a day of some sort of movement.
Okay.
If you're skateboarding, great.
Walking.
Walking's low key at a minimum, but you're trying to get some movement where your heart rate's up and your breathing
Vigorous
is up.
movement.
Yeah. So skateboarding could be many hours, but depending on, but an hour a day of weightlifting or
Cycling.
running or cycling or Brazilian jiu-jitsu, if that's your thing. Or,
Jump rope.
What's that?
Jump roping?
Jump rope is great. There's an amazing account. Like I'm so obsessed. This is what I want to do for 2023, but now I got to throw down slappies and stuff. With these guys.
1 year at a time.
Is called Anna Skips.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
this,
Oh,
you know
yeah.
Anna Skips?
Yeah.
She's so sick. She's a math teacher over in the UK, and she taught herself to jump rope and posted it each day. And she just does the most
Well,
amazing.
she started during the pandemic or
Yeah.
something, right? And you look at her now, you're like, oh my
Goes outside
gosh.
with a little mat. In the UK, it's all like gloomy and dark. When people are like, "There's no sunshine where I live," I'm like, "What do you mean there's no sunshine where you live?" I was on the phone with my stepmom on the way here. She's in Denmark. The sun comes up at 8:30, goes down at 3:30. this time of year in Denmark, but the sun comes out. I don't know who these people are that think like there's no sun. Of course there's sunlight.
So vigorous movement.
Get some movement. Get your heart rate up, get your breathing up.
Okay.
You'll live longer, you'll feel better. So many reasons.
Beautiful.
Cardiovascular health, brain health, so many reasons.
Okay.
So sleep, movement every day. If you miss 1 day per week, that's okay, but then get right back to it. Just figure out a way.
Okay.
Hotel room, doesn't matter. Could be burpees, could be jumping jacks, whatever.
Oh.
Next one, sunlight. Get some sunlight in your eyes, ideally in the morning. If you wake up before the sun comes out, flip on bright lights and then get outside once the sun is out. Just get as much sunlight as you can. Wear sunscreen if that's your thing. Some people do, some people don't. But just like, so don't burn, don't get skin cancer, but get sunlight in your eyes and don't stare at the sun.
Got you.
You'll know if you're staring at it too long because it'll hurt.
Nighttime, reverse that.
Nighttime,
Just
limit the bright light exposure. Dim those lights. Maybe buy the inexpensive red light bulbs. And really, like the cheapest ones are great.
Okay.
You're really just trying to get dim red light.
Okay.
If you want to do red light therapy, that's a whole other discussion. Okay, so then it's sunlight is the third. Nutrition.
Yes.
Keto, carnivore, omnivore, vegan, vegetarian, whatever. Just try and get 75 to 80% of your food from non-processed or minimally processed foods. And if you can get 100% of it from that, great. But, you got to live life every once in a while. You got to have an ice cream cone, a slice of pizza. It's okay.
Chips Ahoy cookie.
You're not going to dissolve into a puddle of tears, hopefully. So that's really key.
Okay.
And then, of course, some people are overweight. They need to lose weight. Some people are underweight. They need to gain weight. Some people don't like to eat early in the day. I don't really like to eat breakfast. I'm more of first meal around 10, 11.
Me too.
But like today, I knew I was coming here and I was kind of hungry because I went to bed so damn early last night. So I ate on the way here. Okay, so figure out what works for you. Then the next thing would be, so we've got sleep, movement, sunlight, nutrition.
Yep.
Social connection.
Social connection.
Just do what you can to make the interactions that you have online and in reality with friends, with family, like as healthy as possible. And listen, I'm no psychologist, but I can tell you that sometimes the best way to think about it is, and this sounds really kind of woo, but whatever, I'm 47, I'm comfortable and enough with myself, I can say this. I believe as being as in contact with people as allows you to be in your most loving stance. And sometimes that means not at all, right? There's some people like you just like, in order to continue to love them at all, you just cannot communicate with these people. Some people, because you have to communicate with them and it's a nightmare, you just try and make it as minimal as possible. Other people, you adore them, spend as much time with them as you possibly can.
Right.
I really mean that. Like your friends, your family, like your partner, whoever, like your kid, if you adore them, spend as much time with them as you possibly can while not giving up your profession and your health.
Sure.
Right. And some people are more introverted, some people are more extroverted. It's just all of that, but quality social connection. And then I think the one thing we left out is hydration.
Yes.
Try and drink enough water. Make sure you get enough electrolytes. That's key too. Once you have those things in place and I would list them out. I'd certainly list them out. And I'm just like, am I paying attention to these things each day? Because when I don't, I start to veer more toward the kind of high performance stuff. Because yes, get your cold shower, your ice bath. But if you're doing that, but you're not paying attention to your sleep or you're eating not well, well, then you're focusing on the wrong things. It's like those kids that can do like kick flips, but they can't push.
Right.
Right. Like we know that, right? Or they just have no board control.
Yeah.
But they and you just know that's going to end badly, right? It's just not going to go well.
Yeah.
And so, this is your like push, slappy, your ollie up a curb,
It's the basics of life.
It's just a
Dropping
basic. It's your
in,
front side grind.
Dropping in.
It's your dropping in. Like until you have all that on a regular basis, like the other stuff, it doesn't matter if you have like a clean kick flip. Like who cares? It's actually kind of dumb and dangerous to not have these things in place. And again, there's zero cost, right? So then once you have all that going as a regular thing, then you can start to explore, okay, like, am I dealing with some specific trauma? Do I need therapy or do I need to read a great book on trauma is Paul Conti's book, CONTI. It's It's an amazing physician, psychiatrist called Trauma. It's an amazing book, best book on trauma, hands down, where he talks about the different things, EMDR, all the different treatments, but that's the place to start. Gotcha. Read a good book. Ice baths, and you can we have tons of episodes about fitness. If you're not somebody who's familiar with weight training, you want to learn how to do that properly, just listen to the episode with Dr. Andy Galpin. We have a series coming out. We have newsletters. If you go to hubermanlab.com, these are completely zero cost. You don't sign up. If you can sign up if you want, but you can just access them there. It gives you an example of what a complete week of fitness looks like.
Right.
How to do deliberate heat exposure if you want to do that. Options for deliberate cold exposure if you want to do that.
Okay.
Options about supplements if you want to go that route. But those 5 things are your core of, they're going to give you buoyancy. I guarantee if you do those 5 things, pay attention to those things every day, there's zero probability that you're going to fail overall, right? Yeah. There's just no way. Your mental health and physical health is going to benefit. It's inevitable. The issue is that people start thinking about what's the magic solution. And the one exception to this is if somebody is so depressed or in a psychotic episode, or they're just so pinned down by trauma, that's when you really have to say, okay, there's some other interventions. Sure, but I think that the great success of a guy like David Goggins, who I happen to be blessed to know and is every bit as intense as he appears, I always say, and it's true, is that he was really back on his heels in life, super overweight, working a job he hated, all this stuff, hating himself. And rather than say, okay, I got to get my life in order and then I'm going to start doing all the things to take care of myself, it's like light bulb went off and he started taking care of himself.
Right.
I mean, and tons of running, but taking care of himself as a way to feel better, to be able to go do more. And so we tend to get it backwards. We think when we're back on our heels, we need to fix the problem and then get forward center of mass. And these are actions and you do every day. And again, they're zero cost. I didn't invent them.
Right.
I'm just here to share them where I can.
I love it.
And look, it's interesting in my mind, I always think of skateboarders as super active, socially connected, but I think it is true they can sometimes lose sight of some of the other wellness practices.
100%. Totally.
And look, it's kind of cool that nowadays there's an interest in health.
Yeah.
Because growing up, it was kind of I don't know, there was kind of a separation between skateboarding.
Yeah, there was
and
a stigma
athletics.
to it. Yeah,
Well, it was
sure.
it looked at more of a jock thing to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, not like the skater thing.
Right.
So that's why. But
Well, I would say
now there's more acceptance for sure. You
definitely.
see it across the boards.
I'm
Yeah,
relieved to
yeah.
hear that because, listen, I smoked cigarettes for years. I quit, and I like nicotine's a great stimulant. It focuses your mind, but smoking will kill you. So, but nicotine is neuroprotective, but that's not justification to smoke or vape. Ideally, you want to try and, if you're going to do nicotine at all, I'd suggest people look into supplements like alpha GPC, which stimulates acetylcholine, or if you have to, chew Nicorette rather than smoke or vape. But look, I'm not like a PE teacher. The whole reason I was in skateboarding is because you didn't need parents around, you didn't need a coach. I don't want somebody telling me to do. Do I? I've just hated that. And so I think that team sports have a great benefit because there's someone telling you what to do. So I would say if you're like a creative type or a skateboarder, you don't like being told what to do, you don't like teams and structures and rules and referees and all that, that's even more reason to do these things for yourself because no one's going to be there telling you to do them.
You need to listen to your body.
You need to listen to your body. And again, where the friction points are of I don't want to do this, those are where you stand to get more out of doing less. That's like one of these things that's kind of counterintuitive. It's like if you're someone who hates eating vegetables, a couple vegetables a day are going to do a lot more for you than somebody who's already beasting on all the vegetables.
Yeah.
Add a few carrots, they get very, very little margin of growth there. So basically what we're saying is you got to do the cold showers. It'll change you.
I know.
It'll change you.
I'm going to do
Listen,
one right
You're
after this.
already amazing, but it'll make you even
I'm
better.
going to follow these rules, This is why I love having you come on the show because not only are you, of our ilk,
I feel anytime, you know, I feel like skateboarders have been so gracious and laid me back in the fold without footage to prove that I'm.
It's 2023,
It's
baby.
coming.
2023.
There is footage, but I've told people who have it, like, they're forbidden from releasing that. It's about now. It's
Tim, find it on
no one
YouTube
wants to
right
talk
now.
war stories, right? Like, or like high school, like maybe real war stories are interesting, but like, you know, the how good it was back when. I mean, it's like it's all about now. We're turning into 2023, and like I love the community and culture of skateboarding, like all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. And I love seeing it grow, and I love the different subcultures within it. And look, it's 100% in my veins, you know. It's never going. I'm going to be, when they're going to be shoveling dirt on me going into the grave, and I'll be saying two things. I'll be saying, get sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning, and then I'll be like, hey, that curb over there looks pretty
We
good.
know what to
should slappy that. You know?
We know what to put on the tombstone.
That's right. Slappy here.
Slappy here. Look at the sun.
I'd be very blessed if that were the case.
No, but we love having you here. And
Definitely.
I mean, come back anytime, because not only do we love just talking to you, but it's a good reminder. You know, it's like last time you were on, we talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Some things I did, some things I didn't do. You know, I'm sure a lot of people listening
Like moving your eyes.
are
left
the
to right.
same thing. Moving your eyes left to right, the breathing.
The breathing. Oh, we
You know what I mean? Like
incorporated
that type of stuff. Like I know a lot of people that come up to me like, I use that all the time.
Oh, the physiological side. Yeah.
Yes.
If you're stressed, 2 inhales.
Two inhales.
To max lung. Well, actually, the paper on this is finally coming out in like 2 weeks. And then
Right. The
long
deep,
exhale.
long- yeah.
And your calm will just be right there
Right.
waiting for you. It's the fastest way we know to calm down. Actually, I don't like structured stuff because I never liked PE class. But I don't know. Maybe we should do it. We should just say, should we just say next 30 days, 1 to 3 minutes of cold every morning, first thing?
Yeah.
Try
Yeah.
it out.
I'm definitely gonna start.
How do we?
I'm gonna try it first.
Do we
see
like?
how-
Do we
Try it
take
out.
pictures of ourselves in the shower for you?
Ideally, no.
videos?
It's just accountability.
Oh, accountability.
But we could get a text thread going.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I mean, I think I've mentioned him so many times, and here it sounds like almost obsessive, but like, listen, I was talking to Mike the other day, Blayback, and I was like, wow, like we met in 2019 at this backyard barbecue. He completely came off alcohol and weed because he needed to do that. I'm not saying some people can't smoke weed and be all right or drink a bit, but like he just needed to do that and been completely sober, gotten himself in amazing shape. He's just doing so well, and he's doing all the practices. But that was gradual over time.
Right.
Building in the cold and the sauna and all that. Now he just puts us all to shame.
That's amazing.
And oh yeah,
Beastin'.
and just is so driven and so focused. And the other day I was like, did you like go to meetings? Now I think AA and stuff can be great for people. AA meetings.
Sure.
I was like, did you go to AA meetings? Like, I can't remember. What do you do? And he's like, nah, I just went and worked out. And I think it's his Midwest discipline that allowed him to do it. So I'm not the most disciplined person in the world. There are times I really have to talk myself into things, but so I could really use your guys' help too. I mean, I do these practices, but I can always use the reinforcement. So I say we get a text thread going.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
just 30 days at some point between morning and sleep. 1 to 3 minutes is nothing. And we can even put in a clause where if you miss a day, you got to do double the next day. But better we just do 30 days.
cold shower,
Just cold
hot shower.
You can end on hot
That's
if you
good.
want to, but just 1 to
Well,
3
no, I'm
minutes.
saying, but that's okay.
Uncomfortably
though.
cold.
I'm not going to do the cold. I don't have a cold plunge. We don't have.
We'll fix that
ice.
problem soon. But meanwhile, just cold shower.
Yeah, we need a cold plunge and a hot sauna for anybody listening out there.
Here at the
Here.
nightclub.
Yeah.
We'll do it. We'll do the show inside the sauna.
It's been
Well, this is a shout out to
Like
Plunge,
that.
Morozco, and Blue Cube. I think that we need one of each. We can do a head-by-head comparison here.
Kelly will be in the cold plunge for about 2.5 hours. I'll be in the sauna.
2.5 hours.
Well, that's how long our shows go for.
Yeah. Well.
How do you think we're gonna get? We need to think outside the
Dying
box.
over here.
It also makes for a good ledge.
Questions.
Yeah. We'll test it out.
No good.
What's that?
2.5 hours cold
in the
plunge. No
cold?
good.
Oh, the whole time? No, you die. I think Wim Hof has the world record
That
of
would not
being
work.
packed to
All right.
ice up to the neck. He has the world record. It's a couple hours. Wim Hof, world record. He holds like a bunch of world records. One of them is being exposed to cold up to his neck. But
That's like some David Blaine stuff right
yeah,
there.
but Wim is different in that he reveals the physiological mechanism that he uses. He would do, if you hyperventilate,
Right.
you generate adrenaline, which heats you up. You'll feel it right away. And so he uses that to counter the cold. That's how they do their hikes up mountains with no shirts on and stuff. But look, 1 to 3 minutes in a cold shower. We don't want to build this up to be harder than it is. This is like pushing to the mailbox and doing one slappy a day.
Right.
It's really
It's not that
it's
bad.
fun and you benefit.
Yeah.
So
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah. I do want to give a big shout out to Carl Watson and Jenkem Magazine, because that was how
Led you.
I ever knew about you. Was you did an interview with Carl, and I was like, I love this guy. I gotta talk to him.
yeah.
Thanks for bringing me into the fold. I feel
Oh my
very
God.
at home here. Maybe too at home. Maybe I'll never leave. But but I do
go.
sort of think of the 9 Club as kind of a sibling podcast to the HLP. There aren't a lot of podcasters out there that stick with their podcasts. You notice that? Like everyone starts a podcast, not a lot of people continue.
Yeah.
And it's a great
No doubt.
community. It's like people really help and support one another. It's also one of the few areas where if the same person goes on multiple podcasts, it just helps all the podcasts. Have you
sure.
noticed that?
For sure.
So it's
Yeah.
not competitive. It's really nice. Like as people help each other out.
Well, that's what I loved about the what I was saying
cross-pollination.
before. It's like the comedy scene. Like
Oh, yeah,
they
they're
all are
so
on-
good to one
They're
another.
on each other's podcasts. They're lifting each other up. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, but skateboarding, we only have like maybe 2, 3. You know, we have a bunch of underground, maybe ones too. But
No,
we,
it's-
we
yeah.
all support each other, bring each other up.
no,
here and there.
100%.
Yeah, right?
But we don't have as many as like the comedy community.
yeah.
No,
right,
it's you
right,
guys and
right.
Jenkem. And yeah, thanks to the Jenkem
Yeah.
guys out there in New York and the great Carl Watson. Carl, it's been a while. We should catch up.
There you
He's
go.
the
Man.
best dude.
Man, he's
Seriously.
the best.
He's just another one of those salt of the earth kind of guys.
Oh,
that,
he's
the best dude. And he's from Oakland, so
he's the
it's
best. He is
home.
great.
He really
Shout out
is.
Carl
You
Watson.
got to get Carl on.
But dude, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you.
the show.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dude.
Thank you so much.
Always.
Thank you
Text
so much.
thread. We're doing.
thank you.
Thank you.
Should we get Lex in on this too, or do we need to download WhatsApp? He's not the. He's
Oh,
not the
to
Android
bring
guy.
Lex 3 minutes. Lex is Russian. He doesn't need to do the cold thing. He's like
Easy for him.
he's a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but like never shows off his skills. He just has them underneath that suit. So
Wow.
yeah.
Are people
yeah,
asking
great.
for the evidence?
What's that?
Are people asking for the evidence?
Well, there actually is a video of him putting me in a rear naked choke on
Oh.
YouTube. It was my only time I ever tried Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But he took the top card is me and him choking me out. Yeah, he is ridiculously strong. Listen, it's a pleasure.
that.
I
Thank
really
you.
I'm grateful for you guys bringing me on, but
course.
I'm also just grateful for what you do. I am a subscriber.
Appreciate that.
I watch it. I love it. And Jim Thiebaud, they're coming for you.
we are. We're coming for you. Andrew, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.